for Ford Police Interceptor SUV all-wheel drive hybrid vehicles from council-approved vehicle replacements and new additions from replacement years 2022, 2023, and 2024. This will allow the city to purchase these vehicles, which are the city's fleet standard Ford brand and models, as well as with the hybrid option, which is a council goal for the new vehicles as possible and available. Staff had discussed the vehicle purchasing problems that have been experienced at the January 2023 Public Works Committee meeting and have explored many vehicle purchase options without any good results. We have tried to obtain these vehicles from the Washington State DES contracts and have experienced continued order cancellations and limited quantities allocated to the city of Bremerton. We had even solicited a vehicle purchase bid invitation to local dealerships with no response. With the urgent need for police vehicle replacements of 16 and the next budget year expected amount of police vehicles per replacement due to criteria being met of 4, this cooperative agreement and purchase opportunity is very important to equipment services division staff and especially for the police. This Arizona vehicle purchasing agreement is currently being used by many municipalities and agencies within Washington State, such as the cities of Port Orchard, Lakewood, Fife, Linwood, the city of Seattle, as well as for King County, as a way to obtain vehicles for their agency. This agreement will also be beneficial for other pending vehicle replacements, such as trucks and vans that we have been unable to order through the state of Washington purchasing contracts. But know that our priority now is for police vehicle purchasing. This agreement and purchasing approach has been reviewed and approved to move forward by the city's legal department, the finance department, and the city's contract administrator, and has had a thorough review and action determination by the MRSC procurement and contracting consultant. I will answer any questions you may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mottner. Does anyone in the public, either online on Zoom or in the room here, want to comment on this item? Actually, I have control of Zoom now, so I can see if anyone's raising their hand. All right, hearing and seeing none, we'll actually go to the council for a motion on this item. Councilmember Mockler.
Move to approve the Arizona State Purchasing Cooperative Agreement and authorize the mayor to finalize and execute the agreement with substantially the same terms and conditions as presented.
Councilmember Younger.
Second.
All right, motion is second, open for discussion. Any questions or comments?
So, good evening, Mr. Mottner. So why Arizona? All of these smaller cities and Seattle and King County are going to Arizona?
Right, with the state of Washington contract for vehicle purchasing closed and does not appear to they're going to open it up to purchasing anytime soon. There is a lot of agencies, as I mentioned, going through the Arizona state contract. They are they're the 5th largest dealership for government sales in the United States. So that's been available to most everybody on the West Coast, as well as other regions close like Idaho, Montana, and Arizona, of course. So
will drivers from this dark, cold, wet place be allowed to go to Arizona and drive the vehicles back here?
they'll actually
I'm just trying to
they'll actually be delivered.
Sorry. That's just so mind-boggling. Okay, I don't really have any further questions on this one. I'd like to commend the Public Works Department for finding a workaround for this one so that we have vehicles for the police force.
And it was a lot of research by Captain Elton as well from BPD that assisted with finding the source.
Thank you, Captain Elton.
Any other questions, comments?
Hey, Mr. Mottner.
Hi.
Okay, so which vehicles, how many vehicles are we short on and which cancellations tell me about the cancellations.
So we placed an initial order for 9 Ford police vehicle hybrid models. typically, like we normally do with the state of Washington DES contract. They remained as orders pending until they canceled those orders with us. So we had those 9 in where we thought were ordered, but when come to find out they were not ordered for us, or the order wasn't placed for manufacturing.
Okay.
So there were 9 from 2022, and then there's 2 from 2023 and 5 from 2024. And then, as I mentioned, the 4 expected for the 2025. So we're looking at placing an order as soon as possible for 16, but then again, it's very well going to be 20.
Okay. And these are already ones that we've approved in our budget. I mean, we're talking out into 25. Did we approve those ones already?
No,
Okay.
those are still pending approval in next year's budget for the 2025 replacement.
Okay.
Year.
So we wouldn't necessarily be ordering the ones from 25.
No.
Did we approve the ones from 24?
Yes.
Okay. So then we're talking 11, 16, but you said it was probably going to be 20.
Right. Sorry to interrupt. It would be,
No problem.
This opportunity may be available to us for that. Our preference is to purchase from the state of Washington
Sure.
DES contracts like we normally do, but they are unavailable. So that's why we're looking at this as our purchasing option.
And I appreciate that you said you reached out and did a bid for local dealers and you had no response on that. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about how you did outreach for putting the bid out for local dealerships.
So we were really excited to get that to that point of opportunity to offer to local dealerships they are unable to supply police interceptor vehicles, but we had sent the bid out for Ford Mavericks as well as 2 Chevy or 2 Ford pickup trucks, an F-250 and an F-350 truck. And we're excited and hope that we would get a bid in from the local dealership, and we're surprised when they did not put that in. So
there's one particular person that I'm thinking of that talked to me personally, said, "Oh, you should order more locally. We would do it if we could." And we did. We tried. So okay.
It was advertised and then even hand delivered to the local Ford dealership in town here.
Okay.
And,
all right.
We were really hoping that it was going to come in last minute. We were waiting down here with Angela, hoping they hand delivered it at that time, but they did not place a bid. But that doesn't end our attempt to buy locally from other dealerships. There's some other vehicles that we're hoping to still advertise that way for local.
That'd be great. Yeah. And so the ones that we've approved already, I'm assuming, you'd go ahead and put an order in for those. And then I'm just like, when I'm thinking about 25, I mean, I don't know, it's not likely, but it's possible that there could be more supply within the Washington state system. So I'm just curious if you're going to try that again before you try the Arizona co-op.
Of course we will.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much.
They become available on the Washington DES contract list. That would change this tremendously, to go from the Washington state.
Thank you very much for your answers.
Fantastic. Any other comments, questions? All right, seeing none, no, I appreciate all the opportunity to buy local when we can, but when we can't, when supplies are short, we're in competition with every other city out there. So I really appreciate you all jumping on this opportunity to secure these for our city. Sounds great. So with that, I'll call for the question. And since you don't have our normal clerk here, I know per our bylaws, any council member can, oh wait, I'm sorry, Lori's up here. All right, Lori,
okay.
jump in as deputy clerk. All right.
Chamberlain,
Yes.
Fry,
Yes.
Goodnow,
Yes.
Mockler,
Yes.
Younger. Did he, Younger?
Yes.
Oh. Coughlin,
Yes.
motion passes unanimously.
Fantastic, thank you. I wanted to take a second before we move on to we didn't have the audio on, I was on mute. So for anyone online watching, thanks as we navigate our new technical setup that hopefully is working well. So yeah, send in any comments. I think the only thing I missed was Councilmember Dennehy is absent tonight. But besides that, we'll have our normal study session going forward. Oh, and item B7 will be moved up after item B1 for anyone who didn't catch that. All right, so with that, we'll move on to item B1. We have Stormwater Permit Coordinator Chance Perfume here to present Goods and Services Agreement with Aqua Technics LLC for aquatic treatment and vegetation harvesting of Kitsap Lake. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, council.
And
We are on year 4 of Kitsap Lake's Water Quality Improvement Project. And this time I figured we'd go with a 3-year contract instead of doing this every single year. Although I do like coming in to talk about the lake and the progress. And recently, of course, we are aware we have some algae issues, but I think some of that will be addressed with our upcoming stormwater treatment retrofits. Will help take some of that nutrient out of the water column. So right now we're talking about the Aqua Technics contract for 2023 through 2025. I've set a discussion I had with Aqua Technics set the price at about $175,000 for 3 years, which is, so I'm surprised that they actually agreed with that because of the economy and the cost inflation and everything that's going on. One of the changes that we did do to reduce the cost is we switched from Foslock to what's called Utrazorb G, which is essentially the same product. It's a lanthanum-based a product that is the same thing that we've been doing. It's 10% concentrated instead of 5. So we have to use less. So with less, we save money in that regard. So this is going to address the harvesting for the lake as well as the algae control, phosphorus sequestering. The schedule, I think it's in the contract. So we're looking at doing the treatment in May and June, and we're harvesting in late June and early July. And this summer we're doing the second application after the harvesting to sequester any phosphorus that gets released from the harvesting effort. So, Mr. Malley, I'm looking for your approval to move this forward.
excellent. Comments, questions? Buddy?
So I'm not going to belabor this, but so you think that it might have been the act of harvesting that released phosphorus last year? Or it's a possibility? Well, we had discussions with another firm at the beginning of this whole process, and they suggested that it is possible that phosphorus is released excessively from the cut vegetation. So because we did the Foslock treatment before harvesting, that was kind of a test. So year 3 of the whole process, we switched things around a little bit. So now we know not to do that, because I do think that it was the big cause of that late summer bloom. Okay, thank you. I think this, again, I really applaud Public Works' 3-year contracts, and what a great price, because $175K is what we've been budgeting for this for at least 2 years. So thank you very much, Mr. Griffin. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just want to say I'm super impressed when a department or we'll say and own, the facts, I guess, or at least if there's something supporting a hypothesis that you're willing to say, yeah, well, I guess so. I mean, this is science, it's not a perfect thing, right? So thank you very much for giving a straight answer to Ms. Mockler's question, Councilmember Mockler's question. All right, that's all. No questions.
Any others? Folks good with consent for this item? Yes. All right, this will go on consent for next week. Thank you so much, Mr. Perfume. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, and next we'll move on as agreed to item B7. Your city attorney, Kylie Fennell to present every time. Fennell to present interlocal agreement with Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization for the administration of opioid funds. And Ms. Fennell, I know we also have some folks from the Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization with us here today
Sure.
to present.
Happy to introduce them. We have Stephanie Lewis right here, and we have Jolene Crone, who are like to join me at the table. They're from Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, and they have a PowerPoint to share with you to talk a little bit about what Salish is and why I'm recommending that the council approve this ILA. So if wonderful, take it away.
All right. Well, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening and speak with you. I'm going to share a little bit of information about our organization and then talk about our new role administering this region's allocation of opioid settlement funds. Next slide, please. So the Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, or Salish BHASO, was formed through an interlocal agreement between Kitsap, Jefferson, and Clallam counties and the Jamestown-S'Klallam tribe. Of the 7 tribal nations within our regional service area, the Jamestown-S'Klallam tribe volunteered to serve on our executive board, and we wanted tribal representation on our government board. Next slide, please.
So the current responsibilities of the Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization is behavioral health crisis services as a primary, including mental health and substance use disorder for all residents within Kitsap, Jefferson, and Clallam counties, regardless of individual insurance status or income level. That does include a 24/7 toll-free crisis line, the Salish Regional Crisis Line that is provided to all of those residents, as well as 24/7 mobile crisis outreach and involuntary treatment investigations. In Kitsap County, that is provided by Kitsap Mental Health Services, also known as the ECRs, but moving towards that mobile crisis outreach as a larger umbrella and spectrum of services. We also provide for limited non-crisis behavioral health, again, mental health and SUD services for low-income individuals, individuals that are referred to often as on or underinsured, so cannot afford even with insurance, some of those folks or do not have insurance and are not eligible for Medicaid again. So that includes outpatient substance use treatment or mental health treatment, withdrawal management services, and inpatient mental health and substance use disorder treatment through such agencies as Kitsap Recovery Center, Pacific Hope and Recovery here in Bremerton or just outside of Bremerton as well. And we also do coordination across the region related to any challenges with that system. We also administer several special non-Medicaid programs, such as the REAL teams that are available here now in Kitsap, Jefferson, and Clallam, 2 here in Kitsap specifically, through Agape Unlimited and Western Treatment Center, providing support to individuals with substance use in both counties. We also administer a behavioral health housing program that provides subsidies and services through the HARPS program, if you've heard of that, Housing and Recovery Through Peer Support. So peer support to assist individuals who are unhoused from that through the process of being housed and maintaining. With that, there's a lot of outreach. We also, one thing that didn't get on the slide, but I wanted to mention is we've been supporting our region with naloxone access, specifically related to overdose prevention, actually for more than 4 years. We've been working in a partnership with the Department of Health and have been providing that to our providers across the region and the programs that we support. And we also provide training to community and staff as well around behavioral health needs.
Any examples possibly of where council members may encounter real staff in the community?
Sure. The REAL team is fairly new, about 18 months now, kind of in the rollout. They are doing direct outreach. So they have been working with sheriff, with city police, with fire EMS. They can be found assisting pre-encampment, doing some pre-encampment work, assisting those folks in trying to find other places to be. They do some work at the Salvation Army, assisting folks. It is a voluntary program that provides support. It's intended to target those individuals who have not been successful in standard courses of treatment or access and services within the traditional model. And it is a client-driven conversation-based program.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So briefly speaking to our new role related to opioid settlement funds, definitely don't want to veer too far into your lane, but just brief summary, an opioid settlement has been reached between the state of Washington and 3 opioid distributors. In addition, participating local governments and the Washington Attorney General's office have reached an agreement on the sharing of the settlement, with 50% of these funds being allocated to the state and 50% to participating local governments. The state is allocating the funds to local jurisdictions on our regional level, and Kitsap County is in the Olympic region, along with Clallam and Jefferson counties. For the settlement agreement, funding must only be used for approved opioid remediation uses, which are outlined in the settlement, with priority given to core abatement strategies. Next slide, please. An interlocal agreement was executed between Kitsap, Jefferson, and Clallam counties at the end of 2022, December 2022, which designated the Salish BHASO as the Olympic Region's Opioid Abatement Council. And this was in accordance with what is called One Washington MOU, indicating that there has to be a regional abatement council in order for funds to be distributed. So the city of Bremerton may pool its funding with the greater Kitsap County allocation, or there's also an option for the city to manage the direct payments on its own. Local governments that opt to manage direct payments agree to take on several actions. It's a list of several bullets, but I was trying to keep this slide brief. Some examples would be establishing your own opioid abatement council, developing a methodology for obtaining proposals for the opioid funds, and ensuring there's an opportunity for community-based input on the priorities for these for programs and services funded by these settlement dollars. Last comment is that we've heard from some cities that they lacked sufficient infrastructure to manage these funds due to the limited administration allowance. So a maximum of 10% of the funds can be set aside for administration. And one thing I didn't note is that these funds are allocated at this point over a 17-year period. So while the total sum may sound like a lot, when you stretch it over a long period of time, some folks don't think that there's necessarily a lot. So. And the last slide is just my contact information and any questions that you may have.
I have a few just high point facts. So for us, the allocation over 17 years is $66,578. And so you can think about the 10% of that can be allocated to administrative costs. It's under $7,000 a year. And to kind of put it in a framework that you might be familiar with, because it sort of struck me as being like this. The framework is somewhat like LTAC. And so that you need to have this abatement council, you have to have a process to solicit RFPs, and you have to have a public process for awarding them. We know what that process is like, and this is for a significantly smaller sum. It also, joining up with the other counties and gives us the ability to pool our resources and operate kind of on a regional level, and you know, and maybe in doing so, kind of stretch that money some so that there's not so much going to the administrative cost. So as far as like the specifics of what, you know, what is this going to be going to, they were able to tell you what we're doing now. And I think that, you know, it's still going to be Bremerton dollars being spent in Bremerton. It's just not going to be us doing the management of the process of soliciting bids and all of that kind of stuff.
Excellent question. So it's such good timing, because in our last public safety meeting, these types of services were discussed and typically get discussed at every public safety meeting. And the need for data around what I would call a needs assessment and where the gaps are and all of that. I could see you all doing much better than if we were to try to do that, because we had great minds at that public safety committee meeting, including our two chiefs. And besides detox beds, you know, we could guess based on experience, but it's so nice to have that data. So I guess I'm asking, would that be a benefit of contracting with you all? And, you know, that we could at some point retrieve data about gaps in service.
So in me looking at Salish, I came across that they did do a needs assessment just last year, and it was published in December. And it covered the tri-county, all three counties. So I think they're on the same page. Okay, so yeah, feel free to talk about that. I mean,
Yeah, I'm happy to expand if so yes, we did conduct a needs assessment in 2022. We typically conduct a needs assessment every 2 years. It isn't specific to the opioid epidemic, but it doesn't exclude the opioid epidemic and needs of the community. We are having discussions about conducting a needs assessment, or at least surveying existing resources within Kitsap County relative to opioid addiction prevention, and then making a recommendation to the Kitsap Board of Commissioners on how to use funds. We haven't started that process yet, and so I think that speaks to your question.
Another benefit. Okay. Thank you.
Michael.
You guys work for Kitsap County.
That is correct.
Okay. And when was this consortium, or when was it formed?
The original for our organization prior to speaking about the opioid fund?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So that there's a complicated answer to that question.
Okay.
So some iteration of our current organization has existed since the late 80s. I was going to guess 87. Okay. At that time, we were called the Peninsula Regional Support Network.
Okay.
And we managed public mental health funding for the 3-county region. There was an interlocal that still included the same service area. In 2016, there was a new iteration, the Salish Behavioral Health Organization, Salish BHO. We then began managing public substance use disorder funding. And then in January of 2020, the next iteration, there's a lot of change when it comes to healthcare. We became the Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services Organization, always for 3 counties, always related to public funding. Just the scope has shifted a lot over the last 35 years.
Right. And then I think the last thing, I was wondering if you might just be able to give us, I don't know, some sort of idea of how these funds are going to make a difference in our community. Is that, I know that's very broad and vague, but
I think it's hard to give a complete answer without having just a plan set yet for how the funds will be invested. I think one example, should that be where funds are invested, would be making naloxone very accessible in the community, so that individuals that either encounter someone that is experiencing an opioid overdose, they can administer a nasal spray and save someone's life. That's actually something we've been hearing a lot of from the REAL teams and the staff that the agencies we contract with. Over the last 6 months, we've heard about at least a dozen people saved with naloxone. And I only anticipate those numbers going up. So one example could be naloxone being very accessible, and fewer people dying from opioid overdoses, and there being an opportunity to engage individuals in treatment following such a traumatic experience.
right, thank you. That was great.
Do you have anything?
okay. And remember, I know that you all saw those settlement documents. There's only like so much that this money can be spent on. It's very prescribed in the agreements. And when you read over it, none of it's bad stuff, right? I mean, it's all things that, you know, if there was enough money to go around, you would be doing all of these things. But it's not, I guess, for lack of a word, free reign to spend our settlement funds in any way. You know, there's a list that whether we do it or whether they do it, there's only so many things that it can go toward. And the nice thing about them doing it is that then they handle all of the administrative work that goes along documenting how it was chosen, which of those options was chosen, as well as how it's spent and following up on all of that.
Jennifer, just because she had her hand, then Eric.
I'll refer to Eric.
Sure.
Yeah.
So my question is, I want to say that the money that we're going to receive, this 1,100,000 plus, is over a term of like
17 years. It's going to be around
Okay.
$66,000 a year.
Okay, 66,000 a year. So as far as impact, I mean, that's great. It's better than nothing. Is this contract for 17 years?
No,
I haven't seen the end date for it on the contract.
right. It's ongoing until it's terminated, and we have I think a 90-day or 60-day termination clause in there.
I need to double check. I know that it was adjusted.
Yeah, we worked on that with Jacqueline. So if there's an expiration where if the organization ceases, it dissolves. Like basically, the money has been distributed and there's no more reason for it, then it expires on its own. If we are the city's unsatisfied with the arrangement, there is an out for us.
Okay, and then the overhead, if you will, is 10%, so $5,000 approximately a year goes to Salish Behavioral Health Administrative Services.
Right, and as you recall, there was an additional approval from council to enter into an additional settlement agreement for down the supply chain litigants, and so there will be additional settlement funds, and this agreement covers that as well, so that, you know, and the idea is basically by pooling, there's more that can be done.
So walk me through the process. We have approximately $45,000 left. How do you decide how that's being spent? Does the city of Bremerton say, oh, we'd like the drug that you mentioned or whatever available, and you secure those services, or how does this work? Or you decide what's best?
They're deciding.
Okay. So basically, we're entitled to receive the money. We're turning it over to them.
To figure out how to use it.
They're going to figure out how to use it. And then we're going to get a report back from you every year.
Every year.
This is where we used it.
And there's only so many things that it can be used on.
Right,
So,
as to do with the opioid.
right. And so the idea being that they'll do the needs assessments on a regional basis. They'll figure out where it needs to go.
Right.
They'll do the contracts because they're not the providers. You know, they're not going to be providing treatment services themselves. They might contract with a treatment provider if that's where the money is sent.
So you're doing this for Kitsap County. Are you doing it or anticipate doing it for the other cities in the county as well?
So we are in conversation with other cities, some, and no other interlocal, to my knowledge, is yet to be signed, but there are similar conversations being had in other cities such as Bainbridge, Island, and the city of Philadelphia.
Because I really don't think this has a boundary, so it might as well be the entire Kitsap County, right, in the cities? I mean,
It's right now. It's 3 counties. It's
Right.
yeah. That's the Olympic region, and then my understanding is that Paul's Post decided to do their own.
I do believe that is correct.
Right. And so I think other cities are.
So that's interesting because Paulsville conceptually, you go by the city share, they probably get 15,000 a year.
Right.
And
Less.
okay, whatever. All right,
But
that's
yeah.
all I have.
Okay, first of all, I'm trying to open up the website and I'm not able to. I just kind of did a Google search. Can you direct me to your website? It's a Kitsap Gov website. I just went to the search engine. I just went Salish BH ASO, and it goes to Salish Behavioral Health Organization, Landing Home.
Generally one below that. So a lot of times the old website is still the first thing that comes up on
Okay.
Google.
So Landing Home. So I'm gonna just let that sit and I'll ask you some questions, okay?
And I'd be happy, sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
The actual address isn't easy to rattle off because there's
Right.
several letters and numbers at the very end. I'd be happy to provide that this evening.
Thanks. So we talked about the real team, and it's only been in place for 15 months. Have you been able to do an impact report with that?
So
Yes.
we do have some data over the last 2 quarters as we are working statewide. So the Recovery Navigator program and statewide program REAL is our iteration of that. We do provide reports to the healthcare authority, so there is data being collected and reports being made. So there's specific information that you're interested in. May be able to provide some of that.
And can you tell me how you conducted your needs assessment? Did you use a continuum of care? Did you do an outreach directly to impacted individuals?
We do both. So we share, so we created the document that could be done by paper. Somebody could call in, somebody could complete it online. Very simple process, trying to provide direct access to any individuals. We work with our contracted network and all of our community partners, and we send out to anybody who we have had coordination with, including our criminal justice treatment account partners. So working to identify those individuals who are engaged in drug court, to get input from those folks. We've worked with NAMI. We've worked with social service providers through the housing continuum. So we kind of send it out to anybody and everybody we have connection with and encourage additional support in expanding that.
Yeah, I imagine that being boots on the ground with the real team would be the ones who would be gathering that assessment, needs assessment. Because I think one thing that service organizations forget is not to use the continuum of care and to instead also, well, not instead, but in addition, go directly to the people, to the impacted community and find out what they need. And so, but I also know how surveys are hard to do. I did a survey a while back and I was able to get a pretty good result with like 200 responses out of, but it was a lot. I sent out like 2,000. And then like, hand deliver to people and have the Google link and all of that. Again, I'd be curious to find out more if the needs assessment is through the service organizations or how much of the data was gathered from the people that the real team come in contact with.
And we do actually ask that question, how people identify, if they identify, and these are just a few of the examples, as a service provider, as a family member, as a participant, as an individual accessing services currently, as an individual who has accessed services previously. So we do have that breakdown in the data that we collected, because we also agreed that's important. Also, where did you find out about this, so we can identify those gaps for our next.
See, this website just isn't loading, and I'm gonna just let me just refresh and see if I've got an internet issue. Nope, I don't. I'm just not able to load your website.
Okay.
So
it might be the whole county.
The whole county's down?
It was on the website like an hour ago because we have a meeting in the morning.
The whole county is down during our
half an hour.
I feel like this is rigged.
It's a great title.
Really? Okay. Well, so anyway, I'll look at it another time. And so I'm really curious about an impact report with the program so new to be putting so much, I'm assuming some of the funding would go to the real team. So just to give you context, during the inclement weather season, I did participate in doing outdoor meals every week. And so coming in contact with folks that are impacted, some folks have good positive connections with members of the real team. Some folks could not get a hold of them. So, just some feedback. So that's why I'd love to see an impact report to see that data so I can really find out a little bit more about, stats for the real team. Okay, a couple more questions. One of the questions is, you talked about naloxone availability. I don't know if you might know this, are fentanyl strips legal to distribute? They're not. Fentanyl strips are not legal.
Test strips? Sorry.
Fentanyl test strips. It's a thing. I just heard an NPR story about it a while back that in some places that fentanyl strips are considered contraband, and I don't know if they're legal in Washington State. You're saying no, they're not.
So they are not easily available.
Okay.
Put it that way.
I would love to see that become part of, I mean, if it's at all possible, if it's legal for fentanyl strips, since that's the new thing coming up, right? Going on. Who am I talking about coming up? It's going on right now. For that kind of availability. And the other question is, are you ready? Do you have the infrastructure to handle this? If you're in talks with other cities, you're gonna, I mean, how about staffing shortages that are happening? Do you, how can you, speak to me about how you have the infrastructure to handle the incoming funding from other municipalities as well as ours?
So I don't have concerns about infrastructure if other cities opt to pool. I don't think that significantly impacts administrative burden, especially if cities within Kitsap County are pooled within Kitsap County's allocation. Distilling down how much of that money was in the city of Bremerton versus the city of Port Orchard. I'm not concerned in that point. You've got a great point. There's a lot of work and there isn't more person power. And we were thoughtful last summer when approached to be potentially the organization managing these funds regionally. It makes sense to us. It aligns with a lot of the work we're already doing. We're finding opportunities for synergy when we were developing the needs assessment last summer. It was well prior to us being named the Opioid Abatement Council. And we still found opportunities to ask more questions around opioids in the survey. So finding opportunities to really maximize, our person power. I'm not concerned that we're going to hit kind of a wall when it comes to bandwidth, but it is adding to our plate.
Thank you very much. And just like for public, just for the public, I was just taking a look at that 15% attorney fees. You're not getting that directly.
No,
right? I know. Just for public record, if you want to explain that.
Yeah, no, so that is the total settlement. Then you have the attorney's fees, and then you have allocation to the state, allocation to the local governments. There's a complicated formula based on like population and some other data that went into what your percentage was. Then there's your allocation. Then your 10%, then divided by 17. You get that?
Yeah. So who gets the 15% attorney fees? Is it?
I think it was Keller Rohrbach was the main firm for Washington.
Who was it?
Keller Rohrbach.
Thank you.
I believe is the firm that I know was representing the county. I think there might have been another firm, but the litigation to get to the point where we started, like what, 7 years ago?
I was going to say 5 or 7 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So they, of course, front that cost the entire time. And we were not early participants in the litigation, but the Kitsap County.
I know.
Was. And when it got to a settlement, though, the way that would have worked is if one person got a settlement, everyone was going to jump on, right? And so I don't know if we were getting emails from the AG's office who then had jumped in wanting to get that, you see that one Washington MOU. Washington as like an entity had to get so much participation from local governments, a threshold for the settlement was going to fail. And so they met that threshold, they came forward and now the case was solved.
I'm going to ask just 2 more questions. I'm going to be devil's advocate, and it'll be one of them will be quick. Do we have another? I'm just playing devil's advocate. Do we have any other options of an organization that could provide these services for our allocation?
I don't know of any other organization. I think we could do it in-house.
With 10% admin fees. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know of any other. Salish is an unusual entity. It's kind of almost like a health district. It's a statutorily created thing. It's not a nonprofit. It's not a corporation. It's a statutory entity. And I don't know of anyone else who's doing this.
Okay.
So no, I don't know. And I don't know.
I understand why it makes sense to have the same, organization. And who knows what your name will be in 17 years, right? To have them do, because the reason that 10%, it's not a lot of money, but when you have a, you know, when you're doing it for a bunch of different municipalities, and that's more bang for your buck. My concern is that we would lose control in how this is spent, right? So we will no longer have a say in how this opioid money is spent. We are trusting this organization. That's something that we logically know. And so while I'm here, I just want to give you some feedback on a gap, and maybe you can explore it. So one of the gaps, and this is my last comment, I'll stop. Okay, thank you for your graciousness here too. So one of the gaps we have, well, you know, we don't have a medical detox facility on our peninsula. And that's a huge gap. We've been talking about it for years, right? So no medical detox. We have, you know, regular detox facilities. So people get the two confused, and I even, you know, have sometimes. So I've reached out to a couple of my friends that are in the fields and drug and alcohol counselors, and I've said, you know, like, what are we going to do about this? You know, what do you think should happen? Or what are your thoughts on this? And one gap that they mentioned is, well, we know that we need a medical detox facility, but we don't know how many people, like, what's the justification for having one if there's not a lot of people? Well, that number is getting lost because let's say they call KCR, you know, and, or KRC, sorry, wait.
KMA.
Yes, KRC. And they say, I've got an evaluation, I need a medical detox. And that person says, oh, you got to go to Seattle. Well, they're not like ticking, right? They're not like keeping track of, I had 5 calls today. It's different people answering the phones. So somewhere along the way, people that do need medical detox are being like those numbers. There's not an easy way to count. So I just wanted to share that gap. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Oh, excellent questions. Due diligence on checking.
Oh,
yes.
Sorry, absolutely.
That'd be great.
So we have definitely been hearing that. Our data also, even when we were managing Medicaid funds, did not justify the number of individuals needing that level of service. We, however, continue to hear that as we've rolled out the real teams in all 3 counties. The need for withdrawal management of all types has increased.
Right.
So those teams are now working to track where folks are going, they're taking out, whether it's subacute or medical.
Right.
And that is an additional layer of data that they asked us to continue to support them in. So we have included that in our data that we, there's a set of data for the real team that goes to the state. We actually have added a few others, and that's one of them, because we want to be able to identify what that really does look like, not anecdotally, but in the report.
Right.
We also have those conversations with KRC to also be collecting the same type of data so that there is continuity, so that we're very clear.
Okay.
I think we ended up with 27 data points, including what type, why they're declined, because often folks are declined for, you don't have the right substance on board, so you can't come to this facility, your mental health is too high to come to this facility.
Right.
So we are tracking some of those nuances to try to see what we can do to identify that gap to meet that need.
Okay, so the real team is starting to collect that data, but how are you going to get it at points like when people call KRC or they call Olala or wherever, you know?
In conversations with Keith about how to take over KRC to how to track that, because we started tracking some of that, but it was like they call the front desk and they say, I need it, and they say no. They're like, you don't have that here, just as you mentioned, and we're like, can we get more data from those folks?
Thank you. Okay. Well, I like your answer. Thank you. I think honestly.
Yes, I saw your question.
Could you? Hey, good evening. Thank you for coming. Do you have any further questions, Vice President?
Can you pass me the almonds?
Yes. Okay. So I have a couple of questions. I was going to mention the lack of a medical detox, but Vice President Chamberlain took care of that really well. So one of the other things that we have been talking about with council for quite a while is the fact that we just don't have beds. We have hired council authorized behavioral navigator, and there, you know, it's not like an absolutely utopian situation, but it's better. And there simply aren't beds to put them in. I've talked to people at Kids Up Mental Health, and it's the same thing. They can't reserve beds for people who, aren't there. They can't just, even though it's pretty likely that they'll be there, they can't just set aside a bed. So I'm just wondering if beds are going to be a part of the infrastructure that you're going to be working on? That's my first question.
So lack of bed capacity is a statewide issue. That doesn't mean it's not important to the city of Bremerton, but it is a statewide issue. It has been for a while, and unfortunately during the pandemic, the problem only got worse. I think a lot of it has to do with the funding model in our state. It's a statewide conversation with our legislature. There are a lot of bills looking to address the issues with funding being at kind of the heart of why facilities are continuing to close down, even though the need in our communities is expanding. At this point, I do not see increasing bed capacity as being something that likely can be accomplished with this type of funding. That doesn't mean it won't be evaluated. I just don't know if it is, the cost of operating a facility 24/7 when bed capacity of that particular facility isn't constantly at 90%. That's why facilities are closing their doors. We could look at other ways to make access to beds outside of the city and county potentially less of a barrier. I just don't see capital and building and bed expansion as being practical with these funds.
Okay, well, then I'll just ask a follow-up question, which is, has there been good data on success rates where people have nowhere to lay their heads?
There's definitely data about, the inability to really achieve recovery when you don't know where you're going to lay your head at night. Yeah.
Okay, so, but this money is not enough to magic up a building.
I don't believe so. It's not off the table. I don't think it's likely.
Well, blinkety heck. Okay, my second question is about realty. I don't have Vice President Chamberlain's firsthand knowledge of them, but it's basically, are they walking around and establishing long-term relationships with homeless communities? Unsheltered communities, I'm not sure of the right language.
So I like to clarify that it is not a housing and homeless program. It is a substance use co-occurring program, particularly targeted. It came actually out of the Blake decision related to substance use and criminality. So individuals also should have some connection or interface with the legal system at some point. Many of the folks have ongoing, but they are the brief for the program is that they are spending 90% of their time in the community as the recovery coaches. So they are out there. They are being called out in the middle of the night. They are responding not just to law enforcement referral, which is the prime priority referral, but to community referrals. We have seen relationships with managers at the Safeway here in Bremerton who calls them fairly frequently to assist with folks who are hanging out or staying in their parking lot that are needing assistance. We had one of the naloxone safes in that parking lot from one of our team members. So they definitely are out there. And they are anticipated to be serving all of the counties. So Agape does primarily south. The line is the bridge and West Sound treatment, the north end, but they do crossover based on need and individual choice. So they often also work together in that process. But they are out there in the encampments, in the community, on the street on a regular basis, and developing those relationships.
Okay, thank you. And then just to confirm, yours is a secular organization, right?
We are a government entity.
Thank you very much. Eric?
Yeah, just a follow-up question out of curiosity. So this is for opioid abatement, it's opioid settlement money. When I think of opioids, I think of pain medication like oxycodone. So let's walk through a mom or dad of a child that has oxycodone issues and they want help. That's what the purpose of this money is for. Can the parents call you and will they get help?
So the parents can definitely call us and we can help navigate resources that are already available. I would think about exploring whether or not the person has Medicaid, whether or not they have insurance, helping them navigate what is an often confusing system. If there are not existing resources based upon their insurance status, then this could be funding to help pay for treatment. But if you want to make sure that other avenues, Medicaid, Premera, Medicare are looked at first. But that is, you're right, that is what this money is for.
Okay.
Add to that?
And I would say as an entity, we do quite a bit of community coordination and resource and referral. So we do get calls and connections with family. We are also rolling out a new program in the next couple of weeks called the Salish Youth Network Collaborative, which is intended to provide an additional layer of coordination for youth and families that have higher needs, complex behavioral health needs, to be able to, it's in a multidisciplinary team model, which means pulling from participation from DCYF, from the Juvenile Rehab Administration if necessary, developmental disabilities, mental health, schools, and bringing all those folks to the table to provide support to those families and youth.
I'll just say thank you so much for coming here to present to us and answer a lot of really great questions and clarification. And I was going to say earlier that the one I had was the due diligence on checking if we had other organizations that could handle this. But personally, it sounds like you're doing fantastic work, and I think that'd be a great use of the money. And I'm glad to see we have an exit clause in case years go down the road and organizations have changed, city has changed. There's an option there, but for now it seems good. Council, I'm tempted to put this on general business just to highlight the large sum of money and the if I don't know if you'd be available to come next week.
Not on the 19th. It's the 19th.
Okay. Yeah. For Attorney Fennell, if you wanted to present forward, yeah.
I had another question. Can we include the PowerPoint in our packet?
Sure. We can absolutely do that.
Okay. Very good.
I think it's great timing, especially with 5536 passing both houses.
Both houses? Oh, I heard one this morning. I've been out of the loop apparently.
All the check marks are
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then yes, it is timely.
And if I have follow-up questions, I can email you directly. Okay, because I think I still have a few, but I'm gonna let it go for now. Okay. Well,
Full agenda still, yeah.
yeah, we gotta move on in life.
Okay.
I will not know as much as
Mhm.
these ladies about their organization. So I can certainly talk about the ILA more, but I guess what I'm saying is if you're putting it on general so that you can have this presentation public, they can't be there.
They're not
Yeah.
there.
So in that case, I'm
Well-
with consent. Yeah. What are you?
Here's why I'd like it on general, because I think that it would be worth it to offer this, because a lot of people don't understand that a consent agenda includes, like if I would love.
They can comment on it.
Yeah, and I think if we give public more of an opportunity to have comment, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? It's more accessible. People understand it more when it's like a general business item.
There's not a rush either. So if we wanted to look at schedules, we can look for, we don't have to always go to the exact next council meeting.
Yeah.
That's true.
2 out or 3, whatever, to see
If there's not a rush and if you're,
We won't lose the money.
are there 2 people that want to take me back off? It's
it's just going into an account right now.
I turned my phone off just in case it went over. So, and if the internet is, I'd be happy to coordinate to figure out which.
Sure, so we
do that
like.
Yeah, we can do that offline. Okay. But if the consensus is good there,
I'm happy to come back.
perfect. Okay. So we'll do general business at a future meeting and.
I'll step out, we can coordinate and I'll put it on the next general.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just coordinate with Lori. and
Either the first or the third, maybe next.
Okay, excellent. Perfect. All right, well, thank you all so much again. Really appreciate it. And thank you for all the work there as well.
Thank you, Miss Lewis and Miss Cron.
Right. So what time? 6 o'clock? Okay. Let's go another item or two before break here. We'll keep an eye on the clock for 6:30.
Not even eating lunch.
All right, we'll go back to regularly scheduled agenda. Next up is item B2, professional services agreement with Confluence Engineering Group LLC for iron and manganese extended monitoring and treatment pre-design with Water Resources Manager Cami Applebeck and Environmental Technician Lisa Campbell here to present. Welcome both of you. First time, all right.
Well, this is her first experience of presenting a contract
Okay.
project, so.
I'm an environmental technician at the City of Bremerton. My name is Lisa. I've been here for a long time. I just haven't presented to council before.
So I'm here to provide a summary of the iron and manganese expanded monitoring and treatment pre-design project to be completed by Confluence Engineering Group, LLC, through the professional services agreement presented to you today for your approval. The city of Bremerton has experienced periodic customer complaints about discolored water and iron and manganese related operational challenges. In 2012, the city contracted with the Confluence Engineering Group to perform a desktop review of distribution system issues related to iron and manganese around the Anderson Creek wellfield area. In 2020, this work was expanded system-wide, and previous recommendations were augmented by identification of data gaps, collection of additional data, and a review of conditions within the water distribution system, source water quality, and operations and maintenance practices. This project builds on previous iron and manganese assessment and provides on-site pilot testing of selected treatment processes to inform future treatment plant site selection and full-scale design. This project will also conduct chlorination breakpoint testing on ammonia observed at Anderson Creek wellfield to ensure the utility is providing sufficient chlorination for disinfection. Lastly, the consultant will develop technical guidance on the implementation of routine monitoring within the distribution system to track and assess treatment efficacy. Confluence Engineering Group is a well-respected and experienced consultant in this area of work, and we're very pleased with their performance on previous projects. The budget for this project is $130,000 to be paid for by the water utility operations budget. No budget adjustment is necessary. I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you so much. Council, despite your really strong feelings on manganese, go easy. All right. Did this go through Public Works Committee or, okay, yeah, you want to summarize, Anna?
Sure. Thank you, Division Manager Applebeck, for presenting about the iron and manganese. I think this is a really good proactive Anderson Creek wellfield. That's the only wellfield that in which the customer complaints about the discolored water have come from.
No, so when we did our sampling, we discovered higher levels in our east side wells and Anderson Creek. So there's kind of problems in both areas, but the east side was our priority because of the levels we found there. So.
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to talk over the clock.
It's like the Oscars, you're getting killed.
The iron and manganese that is present, it's discoloring and it's a little odd tasting, but is there any actual threat to health from either of these substances?
So they're not really regulated substances yet. They are secondary regulations for these, and I think that we said they are secondary standard for iron is a 0.3 milligram per liter and a 0.05 milligrams per liter for manganese, and a secondary, they're mostly aesthetic. When I was looking them up, it kind of depends on the level. Like if you had a chronic high level that you were exposed to, you might start experiencing a list of symptoms like neurological symptoms.
Oh, no.
It's like Parkinson's type symptoms, weak muscle, stuff like that. But as far as iron goes, there are no known health effects on that. So
are our levels approaching that?
So to clarify that, are the sources that we're measuring at our sources in our groundwater, surface water, and the monitoring we do, the routine monitoring within the water that's being delivered to your tap, the levels are actually fairly low. They are not, they are not of hazard to your health in any way. What our concern is that these materials tend to accumulate in our distribution pipes, in the sediments that accumulate. So if we do have a high flow event, like during flushing, during a water main break, perhaps during firefighting, those can be resuspended. And we don't really have a good idea of what those concentrations are at those times. Intuitively, it tells us they're significantly higher. Could they be of risk at that time? We think so, which is why we would like to, for health reasons, and also because it provides wear and tear on our equipment too, our valves and whatnot. There are operational and health protection reasons to try to remove that loading of these materials into our system to begin with.
So you're being proactive.
Yep.
You're responding to customer complaints, and you're doing it for only 130K.
This is pre-designed, right? This is step 3 of the first step, right?
Investigation before so they would do bench testing and modeling, and then we would talk to the firm that manufactures the plant. That we've gone to other utilities and visited, because our area is not the only area with this problem. So we visited and talked to Paulsbo about the plant that they have, and learned a little bit about its maintenance and operations and the cost to maintain of that. So,
Okay.
And I'd like to equate this to the UV plant for those of you who were here and we're familiar with that process. It was really a boon to the city to have done their homework ahead of time. And we were ready to go right to design and to construction when the federal funds were available at the time. We want to be set up to be able to do something similar. I won't say it always happens, but normally if EPA puts a new rule in place, which based on the latest research of potential health impacts, we're anticipating there will be a rule. There will be more regulation over manganese in particular. We want to be ready that if federal funding comes with that we're ready to take advantage of that federal funding to go right into design and then right to construction.
Well, I would be delighted to geek out with you about this for much longer, but I feel it would try the patience of everyone else in the room.
and you can email with any questions.
Thank you. I will do that. I have no further questions for tonight. Thank you both very much. This is a great plan. Well carried in.
Any other questions, comments on the Eric?
So, you took the tour, we got to see the water treatment facility, the main one. I didn't realize there were additional ones. So you have other water treatment facilities, for example, on this map. Is that true? Next to the...
Oh, what you're looking at is where we put chlorine, our hypochlorite injection location. I think you're looking at the Anderson Creek.
Sure, but so does this water get then pumped up to your water treatment facility, or is this like treated and then it goes into the distribution?
That's groundwater. The only treatment that groundwater gets is chlorination for disinfection. It does not go to the UV plant for ultraviolet.
So the UV plant is just the surface water behind Facade Dam.
Yes, the surface water treatment rule requires us to have 2 different forms of disinfection on surface waters, which is why we had to go to an additional UV plant.
The literature mentions chlorine levels for ammonia. Do you have concerns? Do you monitor the level of chlorine to make sure it doesn't have an adverse effect on copper pipes?
All of that will be tested as part of this breakpoint testing we talk about. We're going to answer the question, are we chlorinating sufficiently to provide the proper disinfection in the distribution system? Because what we know about ammonia, although the levels that are present are fairly low, we know that ammonia puts a high demand on chlorine. It chemically eats chlorine and consumes it. And we want to make sure that the ammonia is not consuming too much of the chlorine we're putting into the system, leaving us short of chlorine. So breakpoint testing literally is benchtop testing with water on site and determining what is that breakpoint level whereby we've satisfied ammonia. It's happy now. Now whatever is left is what we put into the system to disinfect for everything else. And so it gives us that magic number. And we feel confident we are, because we are getting good residuals in our distribution system. It just behooves us, knowing that ammonia is there, that we are accounting for that in our equations. So this will allow us
to. So then the last question on this then is the treatment with the UV at Casad Dam. Do you still put chlorine in the water there? So everybody's getting chlorinated water.
Yep, that's correct.
Have there been any complaints about the chlorination levels?
On occasion, we get those calls.
And what's the basis of those complaints? Is it like, I can taste chlorine, or is it affecting my pipes, or what's?
I've never heard that. I often been out in the field taking water samples a lot, and hear customer questions. There's certain times of the year too where they say it smells like chlorine or they taste chlorine.
Okay.
I can say that as part of the corrosion control testing that we do for lead and copper, we test both for lead and copper in the distribution system, and our copper levels have been very, very low. Now, what's happening in someone's personal plumbing might be completely different, but we have not, the only calls I recall getting, and they're not that many, it's those people who just, I don't know, they're just gifted, I guess, with a very fine palate and ability to taste elements, and so they can taste the fluorine, and they'll sometimes call us and say, did you up your dosage? Because it seems to be, you know, we can taste it more now. And usually, you know, that's a very temporary situation, very easily solved by, as Lisa provides information to them, just let it sit for a minute. Chlorine is a very volatile chemical. It will quickly evaporate. And so, yes, you know, use the cold water and let it sit for a minute, and the taste goes away.
I lied. I have one other question. So Lisa and Tammy, Lisa, this is what you do: is you go around and test water.
Yes.
Is the scope of this project so huge that you can't do that, or does it require special, whatever, testing equipment that the city doesn't have? Why do we have to go to contract for this and not do it in-house?
I'm about to have enough to do. No. Frankly, I don't know that much about iron and manganese. I'm calling in a consultant to do all the benchtop testing and all the pilot testing, and I don't have enough knowledge to design a system for us to install.
Okay, so that this is also the designing of the system and not the
They
testing.
come with the technical experts. They're chemists, they're engineers. They come.
Okay.
They actually bring for the pilot testing for treatment for manganese removal. They literally bring a mobile unit to the site and set it up and run it for 48 hours, directly pulling the water from our system, running it through these filter medias, and they're testing for efficacy, and that's beyond what internally we do. And I appreciate your question though, because Lisa is extremely busy. And it seems like there's always a new rule and more monitoring that we're required to do. And she has, in my eyes, it seems seamlessly taken it on. I'm sure she's biting at the bit. Yeah, so there is testing we do to support these efforts. A lot of that, like just yesterday, she was out with our distribution crew. They were cleaning the large transmission main from the surface water system up to halfway into the Kitsap Lake area. That's one of those pipes that we have sedimentation buildup in. They were cleaning that, and we were pulling samples and testing throughout that process to make sure that we were sufficient. How long does it take to clean? How many runs do we need to do to make sure we remove that material? So a lot of that extra testing she has taken on, or that extra sampling, but we've got the distribution crew is always helpful. Even some of our other operators will step up and help her out, because sometimes you just need 4 pairs of hands. That's the reality. But our city staff is excellent, and they have very much a team investment and a team mentality, and they step out and help. And one of our operators, Forrest, who is a genius with designing apparatus, designed a sampling apparatus that we were able to put on the hydrant. He did that all in-house to sample. So
maybe you can patent that.
I keep telling him he should. He could put his kids through college on it.
It's very helpful. I love that. But that's a fun video to watch when they're taking our transmission main. They put a giant foam swab into an 18-inch pipe, and
which we call a pig. So if you hear us saying pigging, that's well, we don't. I mean, the industry calls it a pig, and if you hear the term pigging, that's basically a pig, like a foam pillow or a foam bullet being pushed through the system to scrub out the interior of the pipe.
Learn that on our last tour.
I really love watching the two of you present this. I mean, it felt like you were teaching us. We were all pretty engaged. I understood everything you were saying. And then, you know, Councilmember Younger asked you a very challenging question, very appropriate but challenging question. And man, you just sat there and said, you know what? I don't know I don't know that much about magnesium, and you know, and I find it absolutely refreshing and really engaging. So good job on your first presentation. And that's it. I don't have a question. I'm just go team. So much excitement about this. It made me excited.
It's the water.
It's we have great water. Yeah.
Must be yes.
All right.
Fantastic. All right.
I think
I was just had a teacher once who was talking about electrons being a happy place, not happy place. So yeah, they're happy you're here. Then, well, that makes sense. Yeah. I like it.
And it's like,
No, it's good. So no, so appreciate the presentation. I just appreciate getting ahead of this. We always brag about Bremerton has the best water and the cheapest water. So I appreciate all the efforts to keep it there. Council, any objections to consent? All right, this will be on consent for next week. Thank you both so much again.
Thank you.
Water presentation.
What is your?
Was that a dad joke?
It was really metal.
You tried.
Yeah.
your email is Lisa.
All right. See, we keep going, but if folks starting to break, let me know. Next up, we'll go to items B3 and B4, starting with item B3, agreement with SCJ Alliance for construction management services for the Washington Avenue and 11th Street roundabout project. And we have engineering project manager Nick Atai here to present. You, welcome, Mr. Atai.
I had a presentation.
Excellent.
Figure this technology out. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Happy to be here this evening. This is actually a pretty exciting milestone for the Washington 11th project. It's been a project that it's been quite a journey to get here, and we're excited to get this underway. This particular item is for construction management services. So I thought I'd give a little bit of a brief update on the project itself, and then talk to the construction services. So on your screen, I'm showing the limits of the project, starting from the west end of the Net Bridge, working north and west. Pacific project is full pavement reconstruction. We obviously have the conversion of the signal west end of the bridge roundabouts, sidewalks and bike lanes, continuation of the complete streets, multimodal initiatives. We have reconstruction of sidewalks, improved parking on the Lower Washington residential section, street lighting, street trees, landscaping, obviously the underground infrastructure that comes with that, storm drainage facility, and some minor water main improvements. I've got some sections there. All this information is on the project website. Keeping that website up to date as we move forward to its construction. The upper left of this slide shows kind of the overall schedule for the project. I've got a red star kind of where we are now. We are in that gray area for agency approvals as we work towards authorization for construction. We will be bidding hopefully in the next month. The project does have both state and federal funding. And as a matter of fact, 73% of the funding is coming from those sources. So it's pretty exciting to see a project of this scale with funding partners. There is some ARPA funding in this project. I say that because the construction management services are eligible for, partially eligible for those services and those funding revenue sources. And I wanted to talk through what are we including in this construction management contract. So construction management services are probably one of the most important things we can do to set a project up for success and into construction. And that's especially true for a project that has federal funding. So the requirements, the paperwork, the back checking for federally funded projects is pretty significant. Obviously, much more intensive than, unfortunately our staff here allows us to do. Again, we're fortunate to have the grant funding on this project to help support those costs. This contract is going to provide about 2.5 full-time staff over the life of construction. That includes a full-time construction inspector, a full-time resident engineer, and a part-time document specialist. I've listed a few of the key aspects of what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. Obviously, construction inspectors out there ensuring that the contractor is installing the improvements for the requirements of the plan specifications. The resident engineer is kind of acting like an extension of our staff and as a liaison between the contractor, our staff, the inspector, making sure that we keep things moving forward, fact checking paperwork, communicating with our staff on major decisions. And then obviously documentation is a major component of the project. So they do have someone that is keeping up with the documentation. In the event that we get audited, we have the documentation for us to get reimbursed for the funds. Also included in this contract is construction materials testing. So those are services to make sure the actual construction materials requirements. And then we do have some minor funding for public outreach support because of the traffic control that's going to be associated with this project. Coming up with some readily or easily understood graphics, just different ways of communicating with the residents can be very important. This contract is with SCJ Alliance. They were selected under a previous request for proposals. We negotiated a contract with them. It includes about 3,500 hours of support services in construction phase. I did want to note that there is a small typo on the agenda bill that we will correct for next week. It's a difference of a few $100. The amount on the presentation is correct. We'll get that updated. But with that, I am happy to answer any questions. I know it's taking up pretty quickly. I want to make sure I was able to answer any questions.
Anybody catch the typo ahead of time?
Eric?
Okay.
I'm disappointed in you.
No, but I'm waiting for the dad joke, so I'm going to say it real quick. I'll get to my question in a roundabout way.
Oh my.
Oh, God.
965, not 438. Oh, no.
We'll appreciate the heads up on that one. Okay, so what's that to be fixed? I'm assuming this went through Public Works. I know we discussed previous. Did this specific contract go through?
In January, mid-January, in the January meeting.
Okay.
Yes.
Any questions, comments, Michael?
I think you kind of said this, but I just want to clarify the very beginning. So SCJ, we've contracted with them before and had a good track record with them.
Yeah, and actually they are providing construction management services in Minette on the 11th job. They're doing a great job. Obviously another complex project that I think we've heard, from the businesses and residents there. Just, obviously having a good contractor helps too, but having a good CM that can proactively address that.
Great, thanks.
Was anybody here in Public Works in 2006, 2007? Anybody? I didn't realize that this stretched down to the end of Washington Avenue. If you need another mural down at the end of that block, I'm happy to help. That's all. Thank you.
All right.
It's mural.
Yeah. We'll see my.
Nobody else would know what I'm talking about.
So a little history of this. There was debate whether we should have had a roundabout a long time ago. There's a council member, Jerry McDonald, that was pushing for it for years. So I'd hope that someone to reach out to Jerry and let him know that I see he's on the Facebook. I think he's still around.
I know, yeah.
Let him know he's finally getting roundabout. That would be nice.
Should name it.
Well, I was gonna throw that out there, but whatever. I don't believe in naming things after people that are still alive. But we're going out for bid, so we don't know what this is gonna cost. But usually, you help me out, Nick. What do you think this thing is gonna cost in the end?
So,
What's your engineer estimate?
yeah, so we're just over $6 million. Obviously, you know, we're just like the rest of the industry, we're seeing prices across the board go up. You know, it's several factors that go into pricing. I mean, that's why we're so eager to use it under construction right now. It's getting to be, you know, probably the peak time for you know, a lot of work that's reason to be underway. So we want to make sure that we're not bidding to an extent that, you know, contractors already have a pretty good backlog. They aren't as hungry for work. So that's kind of where we sit right now. And you know, we budgeted for what our estimated costs are. And we'll find out in coming months.
So if the bid's way too high, then this contract becomes null?
No, so if the bid's too high, yeah, there's obviously, you know, termination clause in the contract. So there's nothing to manage if, you know, for, you know, whatever reason don't pull the construction contract. So I think that's a highly unlikely situation.
Perfect. Now, what's being my, oh, sorry, Hannah.
Yeah, no worries. I'd just like to thank you. That was an excellent presentation, Ms. Bertai. I guess I'm looking at this and a communications manager for public outreach, that's something that's on council's goals and priorities. A documentation specialist, that is something that if we had infinite money and a pool of qualified applicants, Public Works would already have, yes?
Yeah, so we have project assistants. Obviously, their roles are very broad.
Yeah.
When I say documentation specialist for the construction management role,
Permitting.
it's really a matter of understanding, you know, if we're following, you know, WSDOT specs. So following someone that's familiar with their requirements and how those forms get administered and filed and reviewed and make sure, again, you know, for the reimbursement auditing purposes. So
There's a full-time resident engineer and there is a full-time construction inspector. Materials testing, I've been told, is something you typically want to have someone else do.
yes,
Yeah.
you have you know, certification for specialized equipment.
Yeah. So here we have several positions that if you guys, well, if you'd like to, you can look at the consultant billing rate schedule, exhibit D2, like for the senior engineer, they're getting, it's the direct labor rate is 60.06 after allowable overhead of almost 152%, negotiated profit of 31%. These are all totally fair add-ons. The total hourly billing rate for, this is just not behaving itself, for a senior engineer goes from 60.06 to the direct rate to 169.95. This, I think, is a really good argument for budgeting for public works employees, I guess is my point that I'm drilling home. This is going to be 32 weeks. All right, I'm finished drilling it home. Okay. This is going to be 32 weeks plus 2 weeks startup. That's what you're budgeting. That's the time budget.
Right, so it's a 160-day working day project. And obviously, there's some effort that happens prior to the contractor actually starting the work.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it straight from, yeah. So 160 hours, 160 days. That's 32 weeks now.
Yep.
Yeah. And what's the, how many linear feet is this?
How many linear feet?
More or less, or square footage.
it's kind of hard because
Okay, then never mind.
projects got, the intersection and the kind of the offshoot of the residential Washington. I could get you that information.
I could like get a scale and go measure it my own self. I was just wondering if you had it. It's not that big a deal. I know that council seems to really enjoy this project, and it's good luck on, these figures are from April 2022. The billing rate table.
Yes.
So, and they're gonna stick to them?
Yes, so the rates are, obviously their overheads negotiated, that's audited. And then their rec rates are listed in here. They do have, the ability, there's what's called an ANSI table. So that is exhibit B2.
Yeah, that's the one I'm looking at.
Okay, so that's the, again, this all goes through their audited washed off rate.
No, I'm just commenting that well done, you guys, if you can get them to stick to figures that are a year old.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. I mean, the cost of construction going up, the cost of consultants are going up. It's across the board. You certainly are cognizant of that as well.
It would be nice to be able to do some of this in-house. And, oh, wait, I said I was done on that point. Sorry, my tongue slipped. I'm all done.
Just so, yeah, I shouldn't have made that joke so early about the mural, because I do have a question. But now what's different about that block when I lived there is that there's a little extra parking that's been kind of carved out across the street. But I'm curious about the parking situation for folks when the improvements begin to happen on that lower Washington Ave. What's going to happen with, because that's a real tight place. No, almost nobody has a driveway to pull into on that block. So.
There's one property that has the ramps. It's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah, they do, don't they? It's weird. I don't know how that's even like permitted, or it might be grandfathered in, but it's weird. Yeah.
So that's going to be the first section of the construction. The thought is, we're going to be doing the sidewalk and the street. So the sidewalk work is going to probably happen first. We're improving some drainage through there. And then we're going to move to the street. Thought being that maybe that can be done in segments. You have the parking on the mainline Washington area to be utilized.
Right.
We're trying to set the expectation that, it's going to be a painful, few weeks when the contractor's kind of working their way through that area. But I think all the residents have been understanding and know that, there's going to be a place to park. It's not going to be directly in front of the property.
Yeah. How will walking be inhibited for folks? And actually, what I do know about that block too, at least there's one on that specific block. There's one kind of a group residence. I don't really want to call out what it is, but there's a group residence that's on that block. But I'm just wondering how walking will be inhibited. It is a main throughway, so.
Yeah. So generally, I mean, just the same kind of efforts that are happening in the net right now. You're going to have sections of sidewalk closures. Again, it's for safety. To make sure that the folks aren't walking through the construction zone. That there's going to be detours. There's going to be a pedestrian route provided. It may just be kind of a detour around that residential area while they're working. And again, that's just for the safety of the folks in that area. Make sure that the contractor's got enough space to work.
So there's going to be I'm guessing from what I know about that block, about 30 cars. 25. Was that rough estimate about how many cars are going to be diverted into the other parking spots? And there again, you are right. There is parking across the street that's underutilized over by the retaining wall, but not 20 or 30 spots.
Yeah, so it will be, it's going to be, the spots that are underutilized right now will be fully utilized, and we'll have to figure out some way to make sure that, we're monitoring that. If there are parking issues, then, we put up signing or maybe temporary permits or something.
Yeah.
We'll have to figure out.
Can they get is the city of Bremerton permit, like the parking tag, is that block specific still, or is it it's still block specific so that they can go and maybe get a different kind of sticker if they have that kind of, they do that?
I'm not.
Okay, all right, that's it.
One.
Thank you. Just some people that know what that means will look
I
into
believe
that
it's
for
2
us.
blocks, because we find mine, it's fairly.
It's for 2 blocks,
Thing,
broadish.
you know.
Well, because they're talking about 11th Street Place and Lower Washington Ave. Okay, oh, there you are, Miss
Yeah.
Monroe. You're right back
Yeah.
there. Yeah, and I don't know, I think that that this will pick you up, because if it can pick up the bells from outside, I'm sure it can pick you up from the back of the room. But we'll try it.
Yeah, it is. Actually, did already review this a bit, and the council members we actually expected they're going to be able to park a little further down on Island, a little further down to Evergreen Park, and
Okay.
And they're still going to be active within that 2 block radius.
Thank you.
And the parking. But we're also ready for some special.
Excellent. Yeah, they're all.
Yeah, no, I appreciate, I know it's just a small amount of people that are impacted, but I still felt like it was important to make sure that they're being taken care of.
Shane
I was
persisted
gonna
on
say,
that.
yeah, I'll wrap this one up here. I was gonna say, I got thinking before being sworn in, I was talking to neighbors and Public Works, and I keep saying big kudos to Public Works in this project because of the early and active outreach they did to all the neighbors along that street. And there was input on the design of the street, there was discussion about the parking spaces, the number of parking spaces. Neighbors had their own count. Public Works did a nice study looking at, how many were actually being used. So I feel really confident that all of the citizen input in this case has really been taken into account. And kudos to Mr. Atai and really the great outreach and project flyers. I've shared some of them, and they just sum up the project status really nicely, all the contact information. So that's fantastic. On this contract, I just want to make sure I got it right. Specifically, there'll be door flyers and some ongoing outreach through the consultant through SJC to notify folks of once the construction occurs.
Yeah, so the public outreach component is very limited in this contract. Again, that's balancing, what we've got these all to do in-house, what we're doing with contractors. So it's, the making things look pretty in a way that, sometimes.
Good deal. No, I think this is in a great place. So, anyone have any objection to consent for this contract? All right, let's go on consent for next week. Thank you. And if folks are good, maybe we'll do the next item. Mr. Atai's on that one as well, and then take a break. Perfect. All right. So next up, we have item B4. Contract with Institute Foreign Technologies LLC for the 2023 sewer rehabilitation project. All right, take it away.
All right, thank you, council. Yeah, kind of a weird transition from Washington 11th to the sewer rehabilitation. Share my screen. I've got a very quick presentation on this one. All right, so this is for the 2023 sewer rehabilitation project. This went before the committee February 16th. The item will be a contract with Bremerton City Technologies. So a quick overview of period in place pipe. You're going to hear us talk about CIPP. It's actually where you install a liner, a structural liner inside of an existing pipe. You're basically creating a new pipe, an existing pipe. Really interesting process, a lot of evolving technologies. But I just kind of wanted to outline kind of how that happens. We have a company come in under this contract. We'll do a cleaning and inspection. Again, that's a verification that the line is ready to be lined. And if any repairs are needed, they'll address those minor repairs through coordination with us. Obviously, while they're doing the work, they have to bypass flows of the whole component of the lining process. You have the actual lining process, which is very interesting, where you're taking the liner, putting the material in there, curing it, inverting it, and then using heat to secure the pipe. And then you're instating the services going into the pipe and then kind of doing everything backwards, getting that back in place. So it's a really neat process, very cost effective. It sounds like the city's been doing this type of work for quite a while. So, this particular project has about 8,000 linear feet of sanitary sewer pipeline and about 3,500 linear feet of storm sewer pipeline. About 240 laterals will be impacted and reinstated with this project. When I talk about protruding laterals, that's where we've got service coming in that's kind of sticking into the pipe. That's going to be addressed as part of the video inspection process prior to lining. And then also, the contract's going to get us ahead on our next year's contract by doing an inspection on about 5,400 linear feet of sanitary sewer. So we're next year's project. Got a map here showing the locations. Project will be 135 calendar days. And bids were open March 29th. We've got 2 responsive bids. Again, Institute Technologies does the most qualified lowest bid. So this item again is for approval of contract with Institute Technologies. Happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Questions, comments?
I have a technology question.
Sure.
So Nick, I understand that you do the Kieran line and it's basically lines the whole pipe and got the laterals coming in. So a little robot, if you will, I'm not joking, comes in, does the cutout to get in it. So when you have a protruding, so you got a pipe that's apparently going into the main line, it's in the way. How do you cut that pipe? You still do the same thing?
Process. You have a specialized routing tool that can get in there and
it's done remotely because the pipe's too small for someone to.
So, and that's another reason I know, there's some of the larger cities have the capacity to do this stuff in-house. I know we've got the capacity to do shorter segments.
Or the smaller pipes, yeah.
We can do the smaller service laterals. Yeah, and this is an evolving industry. I mean, even in situ form, they've got, new technology that they're, wanting to introduce us to and provide, even more cost savings for future contracts. So,
you guys ever do videos of this, the whole process? You can see a little robot do this whole thing?
I'm sure we have.
Maybe you put a,
Please, yeah.
you put a GoPro on it.
Would,
I think it's fast.
Yeah, we can, I think that would be, we can definitely pull the information together. It would be interesting, maybe even for the next update, kind of share process.
Any other questions, comments? Only one I got is,
Okay, you could go first.
I usually.
You like to go last. Okay.
Just a procedure, just our custom.
I'm going. So you're doing 11,500 linear feet of this. Well done. That's like a big jump over last year. I was just wondering how you chose the locations.
So the locations, again, they're coordination with operations. I mean, these are names that have known issues or structurally some of these pipes of concrete or where there's a serviceable life on the pipe. So trying to get ahead of it. If the pipe becomes too deteriorated, then you can lose the ability to line it. So trying to identify the right opportunities, the right time to keep line. It's going to last another 50 to 60 years once the line goes in.
And in homage to Leslie Dowgs, you're going to go around and let people know that this work is happening, and you'll be hanging door knockers and informing people of work hours. Thank you.
Michael.
Kind of related to that is, what does the disruption of traffic look like and or to residents? Do they lose? Is there a window that they aren't supposed to be using their sewer?
Yeah, so that's part of the notification process. I mean, when you think about the time frame, you're trying to do the work when there's the lowest amount of flow, so in a residential area all the time during the day. We do have a couple corridors that vehicle traffic. We put a requirement in there for nighttime work, just to make sure that we're reducing impacts to the vehicular traffic. But a lot of that's communicated. A lot of that is the contractors in situ form. This is the type of work they do. So they're very good at monitoring things and making sure they're communicating and being kind of prepared if something does come up. So, they're getting this work done in a kind of almost like an assembly line operation,
Right.
whereas they're doing the line, it's ready to be cured, they can kind of temporary opening and restore that service.
Great.
So it's very, very fast and very minimally impactful.
That's really the beauty and the benefit of this technology, because the alternatives of the cut construction. That's very, very disruptive.
That was part of the question. So we expect most of this or all of this to be through sort of existing access
Yes.
covers and, what are they called now?
Manhole. I can't say that. I'm sorry.
I think it's outdated.
Pardon. But it goes manhole to manhole, right? It goes manhole to manhole, and then if you don't have redundant pipes, you would have a vector truck or something that would pick up effluent, so you could do the cure in place.
Right. So you'll have two access points.
Yeah.
Two manholes, and then they'll have to, depending on the situation, they insert the liner in from one side and kind of gets inverted through the pipe to the other side.
Yeah.
And then they'll do the curing process. I think videos would be great. So next time I'll come prepared with videos.
Sorry, just really quick follow-up, just to, and one of the reasons the price was higher the last time council looked at this contract was that you were using a different chemical to cure the pipes because someone had complained about the odor. Am I completely off base on that?
No, so there are different types of resin. So there's what's called a styrenated resin. That's kind of like the older, that's been around for a while. So that is something that, it can cause, you can get complaints. There's obviously, the most immediate risk are the workers that are exposed to, even the styrenated products are, they test it and make sure that they're within the levels necessary. This contract does not allow styrenated resin to be styrene free. And moving forward, you're going to probably hear us talk more about UV cured, where they're curing liner with UV light instead of thermal. So that's becoming, more more of a common way to cure this. And again, industry's changing, technology's changing.
Thank you.
And sorry if I missed it, Institute Form, have we worked with them before?
Yes, we have.
Okay, cool, no issues. Not a question I got.
Yeah. The bread and butter.
Excellent, no, such really cool technology. It's fantastic how things are progressing. So, council, everyone go to consent?
Yep.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so go to consent for next week. And just a quick note, because I saw Lori's message online that the microphones are extra sensitive. So even if folks are like whispering across the room, they might be picked up. So just a heads up as we adjust the technology. You're in the back, so yeah.
Whispering French.
Well, if you whisper in French, then maybe. It's a dead language, right? Okay. All right, well, that said, we're getting silly. How about we do a 10-minute break, reconvene?
Yes.
We'll reconvene at 7 o'clock.
Whatever.
Recording stopped.
Perfect. Good to go. All right.
Recording in progress.
7:02, call the meeting back to order. And next up, we've got item B5, Contract Administrator Melinda Monroe is here to present agreement number 7 to Imperial Parking LLC, in park, parking enforcement and management services agreement. Take it away, Ms. Monroe.
Thank you so much. I'm pleased to be here to present a 2-year 6-month extension to our current agreement. The purpose of this amendment really is to make administrative updates, align current and planned service and expectations with our contract terms, and also we to set the parking enforcement up to meet the recommendations of the JCTP. So the other item that I'm really excited about, or the main item I'm really excited about it in this update, is the inclusion of our electric low-speed vehicle for servicing the downtown core and city lots. And also we've added some definitions to the agreement that I think will align with our actual expected enforcement. And finally, this budget amendment, or this amendment, is within our current state budget. And from all additional, all available sources, really is competitive pricing structure. I did inquire if we could send this pricing as is out, and that would not probably work. But I do have additional data on that if for any reason that's the question. But I will say that I believe this is a very competitive pricing structure. And you know, this group, they often do not get the kudos or the recognition for all that they do. They actually enforce it across 6 different zones. I would say that each one of those zones are equivalent to at least the downtown core in need. They can't give each one of those zones the same time. Just they simply do not have enough time in the day. And parking enforcement is something that is, I think we've equated it to whack-a-mole. And it is a lot like an endless game of whack-a-mole, and it's not just one area, but it's also huge. You know, for example, you could go down the street and you could find parking violations in 80% of the vehicles that are parked there if you just looked and you enforced every law that was there. So I can get asked about that. So I'm really excited about this amendment. It adds more efficiency, especially the use of the low-speed vehicle in the downtown core. I'm excited to see that team being able to use that versus walking. And I think that's everything. That's
Good question, comments, yeah.
Okay, so Ms. Monroe brought this to our Park Investment and Finance meeting. And as you guys remember, it was pulled for some modifications and then brought to us. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So that really was just more internal discussion that we needed to make sure everybody was clear on all the points internally that were being proposed. So it really was, actually did not end up with any changes to the agreement, but really more internal discussion and clarification points.
Okay, thank you. And so we were curious about the timeline, and normally these permits or these contracts are 2 years at a time. Is that right? But we're hoping to extend it to to make it the end of the calendar year, which lines up with the fiscal cycle, right?
Yeah. Okay. I do like to align with the budget year when I can. It really just so much easier from a contract management standpoint. So that was kind of for me. But really, we just thought with the coming recommendations of the JCTP as far out as we can really see, and practically speaking, as far as any changes that might happen in the future, 2 years is probably the longest we want to go out. I expect there'll be more recommendations, and I want to be able to make sure this contract is ready to meet those recommendations. Kind of knowing what I do know about that project, leave this sets us up well to do that without contract changes, but it is a bit of an unknown. So we also didn't want the term to be too long.
For the layman, can you tell us what JCTP is?
That's the Joint Compatibility Certification Project.
Thank you. And okay, And one of the points that I really appreciated that, and I hope it's okay that I just totally take the words out of your mouth, maybe Eric, but you're asking, why are we providing a car to M-Park and they are responsible for maintaining it? Which I thought was really wise. Can you explain that to us again?
So they are actually carrying the insurance on that vehicle. And so they are taking the actions to maintain it as well, so that if there is any damage to it, it is in park and their insurance will cover that damage first.
Okay. And just so y'all know, that's pretty much 90% of my finance, investment, and parking report. So there we go. That's all. Thank you, Ms. Monroe.
Something that people in my district keep asking about is, can they call M-Park for floats, trailers, RVs, tabs that have been expired for over 8 years, pallets of building material that have been there for over 10 years? Can M-Park be called for these things?
So I would recommend that you share our Bremerton One app with those residents. M-Park is limited. They only can enforce against parking violations. So it has to be a vehicle without a driver in it in order for them to enforce. So pallets, no, but if you send it into Bremerton One, that does.
No.
Well, pallets, if they're just like sitting on the street, that's not a vehicle. But if you
Thus,
send that into
Bremerton One.
Bremerton One, that would probably be a kind of enforcement issue.
Okay, thank you.
Got it.
And that is like still something that is technically against the law, right?
I believe so. That's not really my area of expertise, but I
Fair enough.
would do it. So.
Okay. That's true. That's really all the questions. Well done, you.
Other questions, comments? Seeing you there, I think I just had a couple myself. Kind of wanted to highlight again on the deltas between the existing contract and this contract. So if I remember last year on the committee, you gave a really nice overview of kind of where M-Park was able to enforce in the city and how often. And if I remember, one takeaway I had from that was if somebody's like right in the downtown core and they park there for 8 hours on a given day, they're very likely to be caught because they'll come by twice in an 8 hour period. If they're there for 3 hours and 2 hour parking, you know, the patrols aren't constant, so they may get away with it on a given day. Is this contract kind of changing the level of that enforcement, or what kind of looking for, like qualitative change?
Sure. Yeah, I think it really does tighten up the expectation and the definition of enforcement in the downtown core, so that it, in the past we've had a certain number of enforcement actions, but enforcement is a very wide definition. So, they can go through and say, oh, nobody's parked in any of the disabled, and they will have met their contract terms for that day. And so this really, I think, meets the expectation of what we have heard. This is what we really like. And we don't want to just say enforcement action with no major health safety concerns. It really is that timed enforcement on a daily basis. And so I added some of those definitions in, and those are things that, I can run and definitely have gone, wait a second, why is this working this way? This is not what I expected. And so, I will say that team is really experienced. They know our city well. They know, I would say the public well. So they understand what is going on the street and why they're parking there. If I ask them, like, well, what's going on here? They don't always know, but more than likely they've been around that area enough that they can see the activity and kind of understand what's coming from. And because of that, whenever there's a change, they always put out notices to people. That is a regular practice. They also kind of understand our downtown core business activities. Right now, our signage, and I should say, for a long time, our signage has been 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's kind of to address the shifts that we have at the shipyard and addressing the commuter parking overflow that we get. We have a few city streets where it stops at 5 p.m. And that's also some on purpose because there are some folks that kind of need to arrive in a little earlier because then we also have nighttime activities in downtown Fort. We want to promote those. And so those are things that they know that we've taken into consideration in our current signage arrangement in the downtown core. But there is the other side of that where, we definitely have expectations that our signage is going to be enforced, properly and all the time, so, or at least not on a basis that people aren't abusing it. So this really, I think, tightens this up so that, I will just say they have a lot of demand on them. In fact, I was almost going to share some of the last 2 days of everywhere that only the LPR vehicle went. And so we're talking all of our annexed areas in the last 2 days. You can see this map, our GPS on the vehicle, and they're everywhere. They're everywhere. And that's one vehicle. I saw them, they have another vehicle, their own vehicle that they're driving. I saw them out today in that. They are out walking. So the demand is very huge. It, decreased a bit during COVID in 2020. 2021, I saw it going back up. Last year, definitely up. This year, on track to be higher. They're busy folks and they turn around a lot of vacations. Still, it's not, I'm like, why aren't we here? Well, I wish they could be everywhere. They try to be everywhere, but they really do. I have some maps that show that. But it just feels like there's a big demand. I think Bremerton and some of these other port cities, or I should say shipyard cities, are kind of a unique animal, are just really unique. I've worked into quite a bit. Only a few of them in the United States. So if you're ever interested, yeah. So, but
I've been surprised when I was door knocking and running. Still, I expected to hear maybe complaints about I got a parking ticket, but instead I heard pretty loudly like I want people to get more parking tickets because I'm, people calling for more enforcement just the limited parking we have. So there's a few other questions here. So full disclosure with my museum hat on, I filled out the parking plate form a few times. Mainly there's a 15-minute loading zone right in front.
Yeah.
And we've had some events where I know people are going to come unload and there's someone parked there for literally, out of volunteer 3-4 hours. So yeah, full disclosure, I've done that with my museum hat on. But kind of on that note, I know they're mainly patrolling weekdays, but for weekends and for people who have an issue, and if let's say that situation or some cars parked blocking someone's driveway or anything like that, are they reachable on the weekends, et cetera?
So they are enforcing on the weekends.
Okay.
This project does cover weekend time. They can report, and I would recommend during the weekend time that you use the parking complaint line or just the phone number. And I will say they don't really have an emergency response. That is just something they really do. So if you do have your if something is blocked and it is really an emergent health and safety issue, then I do recommend reaching out to 911. And everyone has to kind of engage. It's really health and safety issue, or can I go knock on this person's door, or what can I do? Sometimes if the vehicle is parked on private property, you have some more options. Yeah. But
okay, good to know. The last question I had was one thing I heard too from business owners was looking at the possibility of we have the residential parking permit program, and is there a way to extend that to business owners and possibly even their employees? And I know the trade-off there is if you do that and then all the business owners and employees are parking on the street, then there's not customer parking for people wanting to visit our downtown. It's I don't know where I fall on it conceptually, but this contract will leave the wiggle room to look at that and implement it if we wanted to.
this doesn't really address that issue. I would say that we have already addressed it primarily in that we offer downtown employee parking at a discounted rate in the Washington Garage.
Okay.
And that is open. There are, you kind of let market forces be market forces. So, and business planning be business planning. The approach we have right now in this contract isn't really addressing that at this time. That may change, but but I would think it would probably be a little bit outside of that there. You know, they basically just do whatever we ask them to do in that regards. So if we ask them to issue those, then I'm sure they would.
Okay. That built it into the existing residential permit program, which I saw was in the contract or possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah, so that's the question I had.
Sorry, double dip here, a couple things. Let me see if I can knock out 5% more of my final report. But one thing that I did learn is that you get copied on all of the Bremerton 1 parking complaints. So if you do send that, so she's getting your emails, Jeff. She's probably even replying to them.
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah.
Very responsive.
Absolutely. And so one of the things that was asked was who are the competitors? If there was an option for a competitor, the other one would be Diamond, maybe. And so I wanted to know if you wanted to speak a little bit more about if there are other competitors, if you've done pricing and all that.
Other competitors. The main competitor that I can really compare to at this time usually is Diamond. I'd say we are in a very competitive pricing structure. Let me say that. It's not exactly apples to oranges, apples to apples there, but
Sure.
it really is, you know, I'd say very competitive. There are, of course, other providers across the United States. Sometimes that means bringing somebody into our state where we have, you know, different laws, and you know, that is its own challenge.
Right.
It would take some time to do that if we wanted to do something like that. You know, at least 2 years.
Just enlarging them.
Yeah.
Right. So they picked that up. These are very sensitive microphones. And so I don't know that I see this. It's probably in here, and I apologize, but it's from what I have in my notes from finances meeting is it was $425,000 dollar contract projected enforcement. But what is that? What is that from $425,000 projected enforcement only?
Yeah, so that's
the revenue.
That's what we budgeted at. The contract total is a little bit less than that, so it is actually less than that. But
Okay.
that's where we budget. We do have some other additional expenses that will fall into that same under enforcement and under that same line item. So the contract itself is about $85,000.
And we are replacing 2 vehicles, one soon, which is going to be that electric, like golf carts, that roadworthy, low-speed vehicle. Getting right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then, but soon we're going to have to replace the other vehicle that they use where they can go on other roads, you know, right above 35 miles an hour. Okay, but not this year, but it's coming up, just something to be aware of since we're buying the vehicles and they're maintaining them. And then this contract is still revenue generating. Okay. How much was that again? I did not write that number down and I should have.
So our revenue projection this year is $425,000 actually.
Okay.
The last 2 years, we really have been in the break-even point. But I do see, but last year we were much more than I expected actually. So we did actually, I would say, fairly break-even. But for the last 2 years, things have been a little bit different. 2020, we broke even in 2020. We actually far exceeded. I was for sure, oh boy, it's going to be a year. But it really wasn't. Actually, you know, things were just very different. And 2021 kind of continued along that trend. Started kind of coming out of that. We're just kind of continuing to come out of that.
So that's why I wrote 425,000 for enforcement only because that's the projected revenue. But the contract itself, and is it in our packet? How much it costs? I don't know that I see it on the bill agenda. Let me take a look. Oh gosh, I want to know what Anna's doing to get her little table on the side there.
I'll show you.
Thank you. So I don't think that I see the cost listed on the bill agenda itself. But anyway, but it is revenue generating, so it's under $425,000. Okay. All right, thank you.
One quick follow-up popped in my head, just to say it out loud, but I see it's in here under section B. So when there's special events from the city, it looks like they can be on call to do extra parking enforcement if needed. Okay, fantastic. So for example, if we have bridge blast and people are parking literally in the park on the sprinklers, they could be called upon to enforce. Okay, good to know. I've had questions there. Perfect. No other questions, comments. I so bad to call you back for general business, but I'm kind of thinking, I feel like one of the biggest things I heard from people like door knocking was parking and the questions on when do they come out, like who do I call, et cetera. It's the kind, yeah. So I don't know how, I just want to see how the council feels like. It's an opportunity to kind of give a broad overview of this is where they patrol and how to get a hold of them. But
No, we've got a
I'm
lobby
happy.
coming up too.
True. So
I remember that good neighbor guy.
yeah.
Well, we didn't rate it high enough in our session, in our retreat, man. It was on there, right, Eric? That's on it.
Just put a quarter in me.
Couldn't we just simply make an announcement that this information, if you want to know like where they patrol and when they patrol and how you get a hold of them, it's in the packet.
Yeah, we're basically saying, well, let's have a Q&A session for parking.
Not
Exactly.
Not Q&A, but yeah.
Well, I understand, but
No,
we said that people have questions.
And Dave Cooper, right? The Cooper Auto Fuel guy, he learned about the Bremerton One app and he told everybody in public comment last week. You remember that? Cooper, Fuel and Auto? We'll let him be our spokesperson.
Okay, I'm hearing a desire for consent, so I'll about that. This will go on consent for next week. All right, thank you so much, Ms. Monroe. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe.
We won't park this item.
Oh, no.
Leave some space for it.
I feel like
Feel free to force me. All right,
you could be doing better, but it's a long day.
I'll work on it. All right, we got two items left here. Next up, item B, I'm like losing count, B6. We have proposed ordinance to place a property tax levy increase for additional public safety services on the August 1st, 2023 primary ballot. And we have Fire Chief Pat McGanny and Police Chief Tom Wolf here to present. Thank you, Chiefs, for coming back. I think it's our third iteration on this one, or third meeting on it. Evening.
Well, you read our presentation. So before you is the proposed ordinance for the property tax increase, and the ballot language is also attached. Asking for a 40 cents per thousand to the general property tax of the city for 17 new public safety FTEs. And this additional tax will bring in about $2.3 million. I believe we're ready for questions.
Sounds good. So I think our orders for now to see if we have any questions, comments on any issues with the ballot language. Basically, now's our chance to give input. All right. So,
I know it would take up more ink, but I would just say full-time employees because a lot of people don't know what an FTE is.
okay.
Pretty minor.
Nice try.
It took me a second to realize that you'd actually said that.
Sorry, Honor, just for clarity, is that in the
ballot language.
in the actual ballot language? Where is that under? I'm looking, staring at it.
Under summary. Is the summary not the ballot language?
That's in the explanatory.
Okay.
No,
well,
that's just the agenda bill.
Yeah.
All right, well then I've been wrong.
Happens to us all once in our lives.
This would be nice.
Perfect. That's it. So we have the summary bill, and then yeah, below that is the actual prop on public safety levy. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I just want to comment for, apparently we're live and people are watching at home. We're kind of doing this nonchalant because we had extensive discussion of this issue at a previous study session.
Thank you.
We ironed all this out. Just want people that are watching now to realize we really vetted this quite a bit and questioned the two chiefs. So now is like, okay, now let's look at the language. Are you okay with the language before? And then we vote on whether we want to allow the public to make the decisions. That's what we're.
No, exactly. Thank you. Yeah, we had the retreat, another meeting after, another meeting before, public safety committee, yeah, full PowerPoint walkthrough. So no, thank you. So I'll just jump in and say, one suggestion, see what people think, but as far as it says, under the actual proposition, concerning a proposition to provide for continual public safety, police, fire, I've been kind of using the term public safety and support, recently, just to say, it's, especially what y'all do is also helping folks in need. I'll throw that out there for consideration, but it's the only thing I thought of when staring at this language that I wanted to throw out.
What are you saying you wanted to read?
Public safety levy, Bremerton City Council adopted ordinance blank concerning a proposition to provide for continual public safety, and I would insert the words and support, comma, police, fire.
What's the and support for?
Because
Your understanding.
related costs and services. It says public safety services.
Yeah, that would be.
Other
good.
animals.
I mean, but that's what
Public safety services.
Like you are hiring a secretary. I guess that is support.
it already says that.
Oh, good point. Comma. Okay.
Because Kylie Finnell is, meticulous. I guess,
No, let's draw that one. This no, yeah.
yeah,
No one's
I
jumping
guess
at it.
I'd like to reiterate that. I think that the more the voters can see, like, this is for 17 full-time employees, that's a concept that anybody can grasp. Whereas like public safety services is kind of amorphous. So I'm just suggesting it.
Would that be in that same the actual levy language added in there?
Yeah, I'm simply suggesting it. Not gonna die on this hill.
My only concern on that is it would lock us in. So if the city had different needs in the future, because this levy's gonna go on, it would almost, I think it's the levies to support that, and then our immediate plan is to do that. But it was more of almost a legal question to kind of lock us in. Like if we announce that Bob Smith is a new public safety employee, and then we lay off Bob Smith because of situation changes, and they'll be like, wait a minute, I voted on Bob Smith, So I think to keep it public safety to the general fund for public safety, and then the administration and the departments.
Even if we say for 17 as we expect now, but if labor rates go up, only able to hire 16, no one's saying, well, wait a minute, where's the 17?
Right, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Eric?
So help me out, chiefs, especially Chief McGanny. So the EMS levy, that comes up every once in a while, whatever it is, 5 years or 10 years or whatever. We want to vote for a 50-cent increase or whatever. This one doesn't seem to have a sunset clause on, so this is perpetuity?
Correct.
And was there an option? I know the city of Bremerton is not the only one considering the city of University Place has one on their ballot. I suspect there's many municipalities that are trying this year. First of all, why are they all trying it this year?
Well, it's not just this year. Some of this language came from Cheney. They ran one in 2016, just trying to get funding because, as you know, the 1% is hurting all the services. So not being able to bring it above 1%, everybody else is feeling the pain. And so cities are trying this now. This is unusual. This is the first time we've ever done it. Sure, as a city, but and keeping it at this rate, so our total tax rate would be $1.90 per thousand, keeps us well below our max of $3.37.5. So it gives the city room to grow. There's been times that our levy rate's been over $2.40 per thousand, just depending on assessed valuation. So this gives us that flexibility.
Okay, so why does the EMS levy have a sunset on it? Is that by code?
That's by state law.
State law. Okay.
Now, they did change state law that you can run a permanent EMS levy. Okay. But we still have the same problem. You run into compression with it to where you have to do a lid lift. Bainbridge Island, they ran
The last time they ran their EMS levy was a permanent levy.
All right. And do you know of the other cities that have done this? It's 2016, Shannon, et cetera. Are they all in perpetuity, or did any of them put a sunset clause?
I did not find any sunset clauses.
Just want to revisit your suggestion, Anna. Go have it right then. I'll show my screen here. Where it has effect of the measure, if effect of the proposed measure, if it becomes law, this is what would appear in the voter's guide. All right.
Voter's guide is on the second page. It says Proposition 1, public safety.
Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, the second
Yeah.
paragraph.
Second paragraph, the effect of the proposed measure becomes law. Staring at that one and wondering if it would be good to say FTEs, because right now it just says City of Bremerton adopted ordinance number blank, contains proposal to be submitted, blah, blah. If approved, the Bremerton would levy additional regular property taxes, blah, blah. Revenue collected by this levy may only be used for public safety services and related costs. And I'm wondering if it's worth in there putting specifically that this is for full-time employees. Something about addressing shortage, just kind of when someone looks at that ballot measure, they know, oh, this isn't for equipment, it isn't for X, Y, and Z, this actually gets kind of boots on the ground.
Yeah, so it would be for 17 FTEs and the support that goes along with that, the vehicles and training. And
yeah,
that's what, I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, we can leave out that specific number so we're not tied in, but.
Let me think about it.
Okay. And I don't know what what we're allowed to, what's allowed to be submitted to the voter's guide or whatnot, but
I'm just making the suggestion, so it'll help.
I'm thinking the same of, yeah.
I feel like there's a way to do it where you could say that the immediate plan is to bring on, but not tie the actual
Fill the
ballot.
gap.
To it, so.
Yeah. Fill
Yes.
the gap
Yeah.
currently at, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But some way in a sense.
We wanted to-
I'm sorry.
Be transparent.
There's a wordsmith in here you can do. So you're looking at, this is the actual ballot measure.
That's the actual measure.
Okay.
And then the next page is if I got it right, what would go on the voters pamphlet, yeah.
The one where they're gonna say yes or no on their actual ballot is this one, or obviously where it says yes or no. That's what they're gonna look at the ballot.
Right.
So this one, I agree. It's a little obtuse as to what they're asking for. So if I'm not looking at the voters pamphlet, not everybody does. They get the ballot and say, oh, okay, let me read this. Proposition to provide for continually public safety. What? I'm a taxpayer. I already paid for that. What the hell? Other government services of the city. This proposition will increase. So I would say, don't put the 17 FTE. Concerning a proposition to provide for increased public safety, not continual, for increased public safety.
Yeah.
Police, fire, other government services of the city. And that doesn't hamstring you into 17, but for increased public safety.
I like that.
Yeah. I'm much more comfortable with that than the
Yeah, no.
But in the end, it's what you guys are comfortable with. I mean, we're approving it, but we're just, we're also voters.
We also want.
That makes a lot more sense.
It's a team.
All right.
Yeah. Or it sounds like we got majority on recommending that change. So yeah.
So next, when we vote on this, we're voting on the language that you're going to make a change to it after that, or would have it complete back? Or,
Yeah.
Okay. So that's,
next week.
That's a lot of words to now.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this is definitely the time to
That'll
work.
be in our packet. The revised language will be in our packet this coming Friday. Or Monday. Or Tuesday.
Before the meeting.
Tuesday.
Before the meeting. Yeah. I'd make the change tomorrow.
Wednesday before noon.
Afternoon, get it to you.
I'm perfect. I like that one.
I don't think it's my advanced changes. So we're going to write an algorithm.
Yeah, that's a word or two. But I still want to go back on what does go in the voter's guide for those to look at. I think there is a nice opportunity here to sum up all the hard work y'all have done with the PowerPoint you showed us last time we met, on the need, on why there's such a need for more FTEs. I know it's hard to sum all that up in a sentence or two, but for someone who got, at least when I always voted in the past. I always go to the voters guide. And I appreciate Washington State because it makes it really easy. You say, here's the four, the people who submitted it, here's the four. And then there's usually a group who submits the against, and they each get the rebuttal. And so it's really nice when the four statement is like, oh, that makes sense. Like I get what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, there is really, now that I read the statement, there really isn't anything talking about the need. It's talking about the increase to the budget or in the tax, but it's not really talking about to fill a need or unmet needs or anything like that. So I can see why, I can definitely see the point.
In the voters pamphlet, so you have to have a committee for and a committee against. That's where we will attack
Okay.
the need,
The statement.
the statement.
Harrison moving to Silverdale and
Yeah, we can
increase
put
in size.
I see.
So maybe I'm mistaken. So this is not what's there's time to work on this.
really the voters will see is the proposition, right?
Yeah.
We added increased public safety.
That's what'll be on the ballot.
That's what will be on the ballot, and then in the voters pamphlet, we have to have the for and against. And so
This explanatory statement is not the for measure.
correct, I believe. Yeah. So we can put in a statement for when that committee is developed.
Okay.
Right, so that the statement, the city can't
Right.
put the
Okay, that makes sense. Then, yeah.
right. So we'll get together a committee for, and then they'll write a statement for the.
Okay, this explanatory statement is just being tacked on. Okay. I was looking at an old voter's guide. All right, that makes more sense. Then I withdraw my suggestion there. But yeah, for down the road, for whoever is in charge of that committee, there's opportunity. Okay. Sorry, Jennifer, what do you? Was it just that part?
I was just going to say, we can't be that committee because
Right,
we are
right,
the city.
Right.
And I made a little rhyme, and that's
Yeah.
all I'm gonna say about it. Y'all are good at word stuff, so I'm gonna let you do your thing.
Okay, appreciate the clarification. All right, so any other suggested wordsmiths to the, I guess, just the proposition statement?
I'm so sorry.
You're laughing at me.
No, I just had something in my throat.
Okay.
Okay, so nothing there. All right. So then I assume general business is appropriate for something, so public. All right.
Do we
No vacations planned.
do we need this on general business? Is that the general feeling here? Oh, yeah.
I think it, yeah.
Hold on. I just, they've presented so many times.
I know, yeah.
I know.
This is gonna make up.
I don't think it's legally required, but I think it's a smart
I think
thing to
the
do
public
to make it
is-
transparent.
It'll be like Romeo and Juliet. They present again, sweet angel.
The guys. So I guess my question is, if you want us to do the PowerPoint presentation that we've already done along with that, or just to present the ordinance?
I, personally speaking, I thought it was a really nice PowerPoint. So last time that was presented at council at a study session before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a nice chance to put in front of people why this is going forward.
I just wanted to be clear.
I'll leave it up to you two, but I would support it. Okay. Seeing head nods, so. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll just the one word change, what we settled on for the proposition statement, and this will go on general business next week. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, for all the hard work.
And prosper.
All right, our last briefing, since we already did since we did B7, we just have B8, proposed ordinance to add BMC chapter 2.34 and to create a permanent race equity commission.
And why is Quinn not here today?
We have attorney
Okay.
Hannah
Good,
back,
okay.
and I think as a recap for anyone listening, we had a retreat on this. We had study session, got some main questions to answer. Attorney went and wrote a full ordinance, which is in the packet, and now we're here to look at this ordinance and see if we're good to move it forward to general business.
Sure. So the things that kind of went over at the last study session, were to get direction from council on where you wanted me to go with drafting this. For example, last study session, we talked about whether it was going to be a race equity advisory commission or a diversity, equity, and inclusion advisory commission or something other than limited to race. The majority of the council at that time said that it should be race focused, so that's what I drafted. We talked about compensation. I think at this point, the majority of the council decided no compensation at this point. We talked about residency requirements. We talked about whether the duties would be outlined specifically or generally. And then we also had a discussion about whether the committee would accept public comment or not. And that was one of the kind of assignments that I had to research. And I did my own research, and then I actually asked Marcy for an opinion as well. And it is that if public comment is accepted either in written or in oral form by an advisory committee, it does then bring it under the committee. And so I think Quinn had spoken to, there's the risk analysis for being subject to the OPMA for the committee members, but there was also some functional, like the committee itself had, when it was the council committee, talked about feeling constrained by that. So if the council does not want the committee to be subject to the OPMA, it's best that it just stay an advisory committee only, that it not accept public comment, and that if citizen community members want to make comments related to the activities of the committee, certainly they can be directed to make those to the administration of the council emails that people are already open to. And so it's still, public input, but that's where that is on that. But I think, I know that right now we're not addressing that with other committees. This is the first committee I'm creating or being a part of. Commission, right?
Yeah, that's okay.
They're really similar under our code.
They're big, but important difference.
Mm-hmm. So the if we go back and revise those, we'll probably be addressing these issues specifically. So I think it's important. But this is what we have now. And let me know if you have any questions. I feel like I've talked about this one quite a bit, so I don't know that I need to go over everything again. Eric?
Yeah, that's what I figured. Yeah, I already kicked us off.
Okay, so given that, and remembering what Quinn was saying about how important it is for the public to be able to ask questions, and we're kind of settling on, well, they could put it in writing, but kind of nix that. I say let them be subject to OPMA and take comments, and maybe keep it as writing comments, or maybe leave it up to committee, but they have to understand then you violate OPMA, it comes out of your pocket.
It does.
Okay, and so then there needs to be training. But I'm sorry.
No.
I want them to be able to have this isn't a threat. This is like, I want to give you because this committee needs to have public, right? I believe it does. I believe it does. And so then if you want public comment, and then actually when this committee meets, they can decide if they want to have public comment or not. Can you word it that way? So put it in there. If the committee decides they want to accept public comment, I assume they will. Be advised that whatever, they're subject to OPMA. Just put it in the language.
I can't write it that way. I didn't want to write it that way.
I know, but
okay, sure. Just that, I wanted the council to make that decision about whether they wanted, we absolutely, it is on that individual person. As far as the penalty, the attorney fee provision, assuming that the people were acting in the course or in good faith, would most likely be formed by the city. And so the
Okay.
$500 penalties are, yeah, it's not saying that's nothing. And of course, it's for violation. I think someone recently got hit with like $5,000.
With me.
No, not here. The attorney's fees, their actual.
So I do see your point, because then it'd be like, because we're not giving them city emails. Anything that was sent to them becomes a public record, and if they can't produce it, that could be an issue, and the city would be culpable for that.
Right, and that those are not things that are covered under our insurance either. And so as the,
I retract that then, but that really, I'm not sure this thing is gonna serve a useful purpose. I'm sorry, but maybe it will. And then the other thing is just, I had asked the question about why are we allowing non-residents of Bremerton on the committee? And if I recall correctly, it was explained, well, there's one person on the committee that lives right across the street. I'm sorry, but this is not about one person. This is setting up a commission for arguably in perpetuity, and you don't do that. So remember, I'm being districted out. I didn't petition the council, say, hey, look, I'm on the council, let's just move the street over. I accept it happened. It is what it is. You cannot consider the individual. That needs to be stricken. I don't even know who it is. It's not a personal vendetta. This is what it should be. It should be a resident of the city of Bremerton, like all our other committees. And that's the way it should be. So that one, and then I guess we'll go with your suggestions and no public comment, which is tough.
right. Well, and I guess I want to say that, like, it's done so much that if we do public comment, and I just want everyone to know what the ramifications are, and that I think for the people who were on the committee last year, there was a lot of desire on the part of the people who were on the committee for it not to be subject to OPMA. So it's not just the liability. They actually did not want it to be subject to, and that was a very persistent.
Okay, so I think that topic was confusing to the group to understand. And I apologize for Gordon when you talked. You know what I was actually thinking about? And Director Elevato knows, because when I was on the Arts Commission, none of us were like, we did not understand OPMA. So to wrangle us, to get us to understand it, right? Like, that's what I was actually groaning about. And that's why I apologize for that during your comment. The desire was to have people be able to give their feedback on an issue. But what they also wanted to do, which here's the problem, you can't do that. You can't have public comment and work. What they really wanted to do is have smaller working groups, so that if they were concerned about breaking quorum in small working groups, right? So that was the issue with the OPMA. They did like the public comment, even the really crappy people that would show up and say negative stuff, like whatever. But there was a lot of people.
Well, I would say, let's retract maybe crappy.
Yeah.
Just say people with differing
Strong difference.
Sometimes people come to public comment and they say inappropriate things, y'all.
beauty of the First Amendment.
Okay, I'm gonna say then they use potty mouth language, and which is kind of crappy. We're at the end of our day, so I just wanted to clarify that point for you, which was they liked the public comment, but they also wanted to be able to have working groups. Now, this is not necessarily what a commission is going to be. I definitely agree at this point in time that to wrangle new people, that it would be difficult to train them on OPMA as, like new commissioners or new commission.
So I'm going to suggest this has a lot of moving pieces to it. Let's do a round. So Eric, you touched on the public comment side. Let me see these other, specifically on the public comments and OPMA, and then go to the other moving parts. Rehash. So, and then I'm going to, I'm sorry, I had her hand up way back when, but then I'll go on to then Michael.
A, exempt from OPMA. B, I agree with Eric, since there's nothing we can do about unincorporated Kitsap County. I agree that
OPMA for now.
Yeah, that should be struck. See, I got them both out. I'm all done.
Snuck it in. All right.
I'm sorry.
Michael.
So yeah, I was on thinking no public comment, but if somebody has a comment for the city about race equity, they can address it to the mayor. They could address it to a new diversity, equity, inclusion manager. And then they can then turn to the commission and say, hey, we have something brewing, there's some concern. And there's nothing that would stop that.
Right.
So, yeah. Again, like it says, it's to serve us. Kind of like we asked the audit committee to audit something. Well, we ask this commission to look for the things, and we will be hearing that from the general public.
Sure. So like, I guess as an example, the council has received feedback in the past about the recruitment process for vacancies, correct? And that it was not, that recruitment was done in a way that wasn't inclusive and that might have limited the number of applicants to people who were kind of connected, right? And that, so let's say the council gets those comments, right? And you can certainly talk about them amongst yourselves and do a study session and all that kind of stuff. We have this commission, you could also say, hey, we would like some advice on this. So if there's someone from council, the council president contacted the chair and say, we've got these comments, council, you would talk about it first as a group that you wanted the commission to do it, and then you would submit it, kind of like how the audit committee. So that's how I see that working. Is that similar to how you guys see it working?
I'll jump in and say, unless you share anything, that, so we're going to clarify, if they are subject to public comment on OPMA, then they really can't meet as a whole group. They can't go to Starbucks and have 5 people around the table and chat. Is that right?
So,
or without notice?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a couple things. Our charter has the requirement that all meetings be open to the public. Okay, so if they ask me if they could do that, then I would say no. Okay, it's that if they do that and then it doesn't, if you're not subject to OPMA and you're just subject to the charter, our charter doesn't have a $500 per occurrence penalty provision, as well as what acts as incentive for people to bring lawsuits. It's the attorney fee provision, and that you can bring them without having to, pay the upfront costs. And some lawyers will take those, when they see one that's easy, because they know they're going to get their fees. And so it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to meet outside of a public setting. The work of the committee is going to be done in the public. Okay. It just means that there's not going to be the same type of monetary consequences for not doing so than if it was subject to OPMA. So if that changes the analysis, certainly.
I'll just say I personally feel comfortable not allowing public comment, knowing kind of 2 things. One, that I would expect the people appointed to the commission to be folks that are connected in the community, that are, have roots and know people and can go out and get input. If stuff comes up, that's kind of 1. And 2, I think to Michael's point that folks can always submit public comment to us, to the mayor, on any item, anything they're discussing, anything public works committee discussing, anything the planning commission discussing, it can come, to us. So I feel like there is still an avenue for folks to give input.
Sure. I suspect that part of the reason that people will be selected to be on the committee is that they have the connections with the, community to share and things like that. We're certainly not going to ask if they take an action or something and not talk to people. It's just going to be whether a part of their meeting is going to be opening up the floor to have the public speak and have that moderated by a chair, and whether there ends up being back and forth discourse, and then if you did it by written comment, kind of my opinion and MRC's opinion was the same. Written comments lessen your First Amendment issues because you don't have, it's just a little bit more controlled, right? But you'd still be subject to.
Okay. I just want to say, but 2, we can this can always be amended down the road based on, right, it's an ordinance, so just, yeah. Okay. So any other comments, questions specifically on OPMA and public comment, or do we have mostly a consensus to stick with no public comment for now in this ordinance?
Yes.
Another, I'm just gonna say, another idea would be if the committee wanted to have, I guess, like, to solicit public comment on something that, you know, through this couldn't do this for themselves. A thing that can be recommended would be that whatever that item is, be put on a study session, and then the council kind of hosts as an agenda item, and then does the public comment. Basically, like bringing it up a level and say, instead of them getting public comment, bring it to say that, you know, we can't do this, but we're recommending that the council take this issue up and put it on a study session, whatever it may be.
I would just like to say thank you for getting us to third base here with this. I feel like we're almost there, and I feel pretty comfortable with how you set it up, because I know that you're conscientious about taking our feedback, and I'm comfortable with it. I think you know how to protect the city's interests and also take people's comments into perspective. So thank you for that.
So then as written right now, oh, sorry, I should just double check on, okay, so we're okay with as it's written, or no, not okay, sorry, as OPMA goes.
It's the 24.0020. That's the one where it opens it up to unincorporated Kitsap County.
That was the next I was gonna get to, yeah.
Yeah.
So on that one, yeah, so as it's written right now, as you said, Bremerton address or unincorporated. So we're hearing and any other comments on?
Resident of the city of Bremerton.
Okay, we have an informal proposal to change it just to Bremerton. If folks want to respond to that.
The perspective on that is it's under section 32, I believe, of our charter, states that being a resident is a requirement unless the ordinance states otherwise. So, for example, last year we amended our audit committee ordinance to clarify that the city auditor could be outside of the city limits, could reside outside the city limits, which I believe had been a practice, but it was a little unclear, so we made it more clear that it was okay. So the charter allows you to have the ordinance different than that, but the default and what is I'm not aware of any other communities that deviate from the normal.
Commission? Well, yeah. Okay, so you're saying that, yeah, so go one.
And I just want to bring some more clarity about other reasons why opening it up in this way would be a benefit to this commission, okay? It has to do with sheer numbers of availability of people. Now, people who live across the street or 2 blocks down or 1 mile away, we're still under some of the same interlocal agreements for public safety, for instance. So they might be interacting, not necessarily with Kitsap, with Kitsap Sheriff, but maybe with Bremerton. A lot of folks with that address are probably going to be interacting in the city of Bremerton for work, for leisure, for church, things like that. And it opens up a population of folks that can serve on this commission that aren't necessarily, like, when you start to think about the hours that our committee meetings meet, and this is going to be probably an evening time, folks work different hours, okay? And so when you think about underrepresented populations, there are folks who have different types of work hours. And so it opens up the pool to people that are directly, in Bremerton and not necessarily in the city of Bremerton, but I mean, you think about the number, I don't even know what our population is right now. It's the end of a long night, but we have a small population in some categories of diversity. So I just want to throw that information out there and let y'all do what you want.
Mike, or on this one?
I'm waiting.
I don't feel I've heard a compelling enough reason that we should open it up. If we run into this problem, we can make that exception. I don't know. I don't feel strong enough, go too hard for it, but it just seems like it makes sense to me that it should be Bremerton. County has a REAC, Bainbridge has a REAC, other cities are doing them. So, it seems weird to
have somebody, from a, you know, anyways, but I hear you and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Maybe clearer than you actually said, but.
Thank you, sir. Like I said, y'all are much better at this word stuff.
Did you say any comments on residency?
No, not on residency.
I'll say like, I think I've changed my mind on this lately, because originally, oh,
What's happening?
and did you have something to jump in here with?
The planning commission allows it.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Oh,
for
yeah.
that information. Okay.
Oh, no. Another point of clarity.
So,
And she said it way better
yeah.
than me.
No, good. So I'm thinking about it. It's like one, I appreciate, hey, the tax-paying citizens are paying city taxes because they're actually in city limits, should be able to serve. But I'm actually going to say out loud, I kind of feel like almost all committees should be open wider, because here's my thinking. If we open this up and, you know, the mayor appoints someone to a commission or committee and says, oh yeah, they're from Walla Walla, right? Or even like, oh, they live and work in Bainbridge, but they want to tell what Bremerton what to do, right? One, I don't think this mayor or any mayor would do that in the first place. And second, council would be able to say on confirmation and go, wait a minute, they live in Bainbridge, do they have any ties to Bremerton? No, then no, we're not going to confirm them. So I feel like we could, by opening it up, to allow that case by case basis where you say this person's literally one, you know, across the street outside city limits, or this person is nearby, but they live and work in, you know, downtown all the time. And this could apply to almost any commission. So that's kind of where I'm at these days. I trust mayor and council enough to look at the person and know if they actually have ties to Bremerton or not.
There's a little language that I overheard from the.
Planning commission has an exception if a qualified applicant that is a resident of the city can't be found. They can go out.
Okay, so
Everybody think about that language.
If, yeah, if.
Oh,
It's,
I
yeah,
like that.
yeah, if a person's not available. So.
Oh.
Once again,
I don't think
so I'm going to do a
so.
second round on that, just having our
Yeah,
opinions out there.
I don't,
Yeah.
as planning commission, I don't think we've ever had anyone that I can.
Never had to do that. We've always had qualified applicants.
Yeah.
So I've always believed in, I'm a loss of words with compromise, so I'm okay with that language put in there. If a qualified candidate cannot be found, I don't know if you say qualified because, well, there's not really technically a qualification to be on planning commission. Usually it's somebody, well, no, that's the design. That's when you need to have an architect, someone with educational background. The planning commission is just an interest.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little confused.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Whatever.
Or lesser qualified.
Yeah. Okay, but,
Right, I think it means that no one's applying to be on this commission. Like,
okay, as long as
there's
it's
no
not,
you know,
you know,
18-year-old city resident, right?
because that's kind of a, yeah.
Well-
As long as it's taking the right context.
So there could be reasons.
I do want to recognize that. Yeah.
Well, basically, if you don't have the applicants. Because anyone's qualified if you're over 18 and a resident of Bremerton, we have to choose from that. But if we only have, if for whatever it says 5 to 9, and there's only 4 people that apply and you did the public outreach, okay, fine, then you can go outside the city. That would be the condition that would work. That would be your qualified. I don't like that word, but I understand what you're saying, but that would be the situation.
Let's let Anna jump in and then I have a response on that one.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Back in very patient.
So again, I don't think it's because I pay taxes here by gum, and therefore only people like me who pay taxes can be on this commission. I think it's really specific that there's nothing we can do about unincorporated Kitsap County. We can do things about the city of Bremerton, but we can't do anything. We can't put sidewalks to connect school kids to crosswalks. If that land lies in Kitsap County, there is nothing we can do. So I think that's why I'm suggesting this clause should be struck.
Say to that, somebody who lives just outside city limits and spends all their time, say downtown, may have comments specifically only about downtown, which we do have control over. I don't know.
Well, those comments can be written to the committee.
Fair enough. And then,
I'm thinking, can I just follow up?
yeah, sure.
So I'm thinking really about one of the people who gave public comment last week, who said that he felt very connected to Bremerton, except he did not live here because the gangs had driven him out. And I feel that just because someone feels that they have a connection to Bremerton, you know, it's like, are they living here? That's it.
I think of their application they'd have, yeah. And then quick other response to, before I forget it, sorry. What were we saying before the residency? Oh, the qualified. I know. The qualified part. There is a concern there because I remember on audit committee, there was one application and they lived in city limits, but I think when it said like, you know, why do you want to be on this committee? The answer was literally, quote, I'm very smart. That's it. It said, how long have you lived in Bremerton? You know, it was an application that was not, I'd call serious. So I do think we need to think about that in terms of, you know, that's what I would call an unqualified application, but that language is good to nail down.
Well,
Yeah.
I think that's part of the confirmation process. I mean, I guess we don't have like a job description, so to speak, here, but
Okay.
like this one's gonna be one that we're more likely to have people who want to be on this.
You're gonna have all kinds of people that are gonna wanna be on it, so
Yeah.
that's makes me nervous.
I've been going all over the place, but I think I'm settling on, let's strike the language. And if it becomes a problem with finding folks, then we can make that change.
Like we did with audit.
Hey, bravo. Okay,
I mean,
are we done? Can we put it on consent?
Wait, no, not
Hey,
that.
I've been waiting.
The tough one, yeah. There are other items.
I'm sorry.
Are we not done yet?
No.
All right, one was there. All right, so it sounds like we have, again, you know, Denise said you fall in that same.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
That's
that
what we gotta go.
covers all the concerns.
okay. So,
I am dying on this hill right now, just kidding.
No.
I mean, it is what it, no, it's fine.
no, I
Whatever.
said my piece, yeah, but,
I'm just gonna take out that parenthetical.
okay, so we'll take out the parenthetical to go to, and gonna keep in mind, this will go to a general business. We'll talk about it in a bit, exactly the timeline, but, it's a good public comment. We could always rehash it. Okay. Any other comments on the ordinance as proposed topic, and then we'll go round about. Denise.
It was a close vote, 4-3 over naming of it. And I've been thinking a lot about it this week, mainly after last week's council meeting. And I cannot be Denise Fry and not say something about history repeating itself over and over again with this kind of stuff. And that is, y'all know that I worked for the YWCA for many years. What you might not know is the YWCA started working in racial justice before it started working in women's issues. And that many suffragettes started out as abolitionists. And yet, when the 14th Amendment was being considered, it was decided to leave women behind. It was decided to leave women off of that because, and I'll quote, it was Frederick Douglass who said, it's the Negro's hour. And so it took women many, 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 many more years to gain the traction again, to bring that back. Do we still have it in Kitsap County? And I'm talking about sexism. Yes. I mean, I was just told a year ago that I was not going to get a promised raise because I had a wealthy boyfriend. I'm an executive. And I was told this in Kitsap County. If you asked women through the city, through the county, through whatever, we experience sexism every single day and usually don't even notice it. I notice it. And I feel sad I want this commission to be successful. I really do. We can't afford it not to be successful with this. And it's a mayor's commission. The mayor's going to be working with this commission, and he's hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion manager. And we're refusing to call this commission that. I think that's setting the stage for a lot of conflict between the council and the mayor, this committee and the mayor, or potential conflict that I really would like to avoid. And some people may say, and I'm not going to die on this sword. I will go along with what the group decides. I really will. But I need to be a resident feminist here and tell you, we have work to do. We have work to do. And I felt it last week in council. And I'm just going to come out there and say it. It was a very uncomfortable meeting for me. And it was gender-based discomfort. Whether that was shared by anybody else, I don't know. But I've got to call it what it is and say, we can pretend we don't have a problem with sexism. I actually was told by another council member at last week's meeting, leaned over and said, your predecessor is going to have words with you if you keep, fighting this race, equity. And I said, no, she won't, because she charged the city with sexism as well as racism. So how quickly we forget. I'm not saying that anybody means it. I'm saying that that's the way it happens. I'm just calling it as I see it because that's what I do. And I'll go along with whatever the council decides and be quite happy with it, actually.
Before Eric, you have a specific proposal for the title or any amendment, any.
I'd just rather it be whatever, we're calling it the diversity, equity, and inclusion position. That's not saying I don't think race is important.
But the title at the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. Okay, I just wanted to, yeah. Eric.
Okay, so I think I was the deciding vote, 4-3 or whatever for race equity.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't want to get into yesterday's.
Yeah, let's keep it on the.
Keep your talking point. So tonight, next Wednesday, I think you'll win everyone over. You won me over. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And change my mind. Okay? So that's what I would like. And if someone else is going to change their mind the other way, then we have the majority that wants diversity.
I'm going to also speak out because this is kind of as I said last time. I was on the fence and still truly on the fence, and maybe it's worth going to public comment on because I appreciate everything you just said, and that was one of the reasons I when I was on that fence, I said I'm going to go on this side of DEI. Mm-hmm. And I'm struggling here because I don't want this title to be the thing that holds it up from getting done. And I just want to throw out a couple options we could discuss, because I was leaving as is, going the full DEI, doing something like Olympia with the Social Justice and Equity Committee title. I had mentioned that what they did was they did that title, and then the description they called out race as a prominent factor, and then also mentioned gender and other items. I say we could also go the other way, keep it titled Race Equity Advisory Commission, and then call out in the description of the group that is not, although that is the principal component, it's not limited to it. I just going to throw some options out there. I know this is definitely probably the toughest conversation in crafting this.
And why do we schedule these for the end of the evening?
Because it's me. No, seriously.
No,
Yeah.
Because I stay throughout the meeting, items that I'm on are always last.
Try and get it established after.
I'm all for you when you do that.
I just wonder if this is a little putting the cart before the horse. Could this be held for our DEI consultant and the program? Like, I don't know. I don't know if we'd be sitting on it too long. I just, and it's interesting. I don't feel super strongly one way or the other. So, you know, I also feel I like to see a good majority on something anyways. I hate to see those kind of split stuff.
Mhm.
But I didn't, when I advocated for the race equity title, it's because those are the folks who came to us and asked for that. And I just wanted to honor that original request. And like I said, it is one of the hotter issues that we have to make some progress on.
Yeah.
But again, you know, if we're not to steal your consultant, but if there's somebody coming to advise the city on what would be best way to do that, could they answer one question for us? You know. Anyways.
And I worry that, for me talking to folks at Split, I mean, it's, so I don't mean if anyone wants to jump in, but as Eric kind of flipped, I kind of flipped actually more almost on keeping the race equity title. And I'll just say bluntly 2 reasons. One, there's been unfounded allegations that, the city disbanded, REACT, which, wasn't the case as we've discussed. It just didn't have the proper legal framework, which is what we're trying to create here. So in one sense, the continuity of keeping REACT to REACT, I think, is really strong and showing no, he didn't disband it. And so for that kind of reason of keeping it there, adding language that they're not constrained, to make it clear, they're not constrained only to talk about race issues, they can talk about other things, and then let them work on the title. But
I would rather that not be the case.
So fair enough. Yeah.
That would be,
that
would be ridiculous.
We can't tell them what they
LGBT
can talk about.
citizens.
Right, yeah.
There's women, there's folks who,
Everybody
feel
here
left
is,
out.
Oh, sorry.
everybody here is white. Everybody here is white. So like your version of diversity is watered down. So you cannot, in good conscience, not take public comment to make this decision. Okay. So you know where I sit on it. And I think that it's not fair that we just say feminism is one thing, because, and I super appreciate everything you said, Denise, except the part where you said it's Negroes Hour. You know what?
That's a quote.
Yes, but hold on. Let me just make my comment. Black women got left behind, and Black women and other women of color continue to suffer the effects. Way worse than we have, way worse than we did. We've had our own struggles, okay? But having worked at the YWCA, who were the people that come in that have struggled the most and faced the most adversity, faced the most discrimination, faced the most, you know what I mean? Like it's about race. When we are able to analyze race, it takes care of everything. So I'm just frustrated. I'm frustrated by this.
I think we do need professionals at the table. I have been a certified race relations trainer and coach. Granted, I'm white, but I've got more in common with let's not even go there. I don't believe in the hierarchy of oppression, and I've said that before. I don't think you can say that one person has it worse than another. I think we have to battle. I see everything's being connected. Everything's being connected, all the isms. And we have a horrible track record with race in this country, and we've got to do something about it. But I'm tired of being excluded.
But on before that, so I just want to reiterate that, we will get public comment on this. We're just trying to see if we have consensus to put this agenda bill out there for public comment on a general study session, and we can talk about the option of doing a public feedback only at a general business meeting, or whether to, how to proceed forward.
I can also make it blank if you want me to put that into the agenda. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, and write the agenda bill that right now, that there's not consensus right now.
So the only public comment on this that I'm aware of is from a single individual who was a former member of the Race Equity Advisory Committee. This is the Race Equity Advisory Commission. I'm really I completely agree with you, Denise. I feel that, although I gotta say that from everything I know, race is the most bitter. It's just cloud the back of your throat with tears. It's just that bitter. The Jews. Well, this I know about. There is inequity all over, and that's why I voted for the diversity, equity, and inclusion title, or social justice and equity. But we voted, and the majority of council wanted to call it the Race Equity Advisory Commission. Should we take this up in some other way? I am totally behind that.
I think the majority voted for race equity.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
They did.
It wasn't like a real,
It was 4-3.
Just vote and also.
It was a straw poll.
It was also not a vote because we don't take
Correct.
votes.
It was a straw poll.
This was just direction for me to draft something. But the final decision being made after we have a chance for public comment in compliance with OPMA.
Yeah, let's let the public comment happen.
That sounds good, because often when we have that public comment, we like hear things that just make us go, oh my gosh.
So
So
I guess we could have it on just for public comment next week and listen. We could have it. And then, I mean, so that's an option.
Public hearing.
Or just to accept
No,
public
no
comment.
action, yeah.
Yeah. Without action anticipated, and then come back for another study session to kind of discuss what we heard. Or we can do it however you guys want. I'm just throwing that option.
if we say action is intended, real quick technical, can we then backpedal and go, actually, we're gonna have to discuss this some more?
And yeah, in any general item, we can, someone makes some,
Great.
one,
Hold on, sorry.
nobody can make a motion, right? No, I think it's good to review this, because like, we take the public comment, no more councilman make a motion. I mean, that may happen, right? And go, okay, well, there's no motion, next item. Or there could be a motion and no second, or there could be a motion second, and then someone can come and say, I wanna,
Just like,
table
this
top
is
right
just
word,
for
but-
study session and kind of drafting purposes.
Mhm.
Like last study session, we were going one way and now we're going a different way. And
we
that's
only have
fine.
6.
And but we aren't making decisions until after we get public comment.
Correct.
So,
Great.
all I need to know about for next week would be, do you want me to take, these out where it says a creation of a blank advisory commission, or do you want me to leave it how it is right now, how it went out in this packet?
Leave it.
Yeah. And then you guys will talk about, okay.
I'm good with
Okay,
that.
the only thing I'll change then is the parenthetical on residency, or do you want?
Yes.
Okay.
Please change that.
Yeah, I think we're there. Michael, get your hand up, though.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay. Oh, how is the public gonna know that one of the things we're considering is just the nomenclature of this commission?
They'll find out.
And not just them.
It's not me. People are watching right now. They watch the recorded. They see the agenda. They watch the recorded. They take our clips. They put it on the social media sites. People show up and comment.
Yeah.
So if there's some other way that you want to get out,
No, I just want to make sure we have a good input.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
One thing,
and not just
when Kylie presents it, she
well,
could,
and I could also, in the agenda bill, I could write up that the council is considering this specific issue. Is this the only one now? Because I mean, we did have a couple and now we're down. to one.
yeah, I want to circle back to that. So okay, I think we had majority on the language for, except for the qualified language, yeah.
Vote, but that doesn't matter.
But so it doesn't even, there's no voting. This is a straw poll.
Yeah,
So I think,
definitely.
may I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
Okay. So the one thing, is there anything beside, and this is not, I'm sorry, I'm probably taking, is there anything else besides the name of it that we are?
That's where I'm getting to.
Okay.
Sorry, so one
just
thing.
wanted to clarify
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm trying to get to. Yeah. That's
No.
enough, more faster we're done. Sorry. Okay, so I think we're good on that. The language on the qualified. The one issue of if we get an application that, like the mayor's not
I thought we were
comfortable to
just
bring
gonna,
forward.
yeah, I thought we were just gonna leave it without
As
that
is,
and
okay.
change it if we needed to, like we did an audit.
Down the road. Okay, all right, so we're good there. All right, so we got the title issue, that's taken care of. I think we got public comment issue. And then there was one other that we talked about last week.
Powers and duties specific for general, and I think we went with.
Oh, that's right, that was, I think, not touch. Okay. So for next week, folks good with, so leave the title. So you recommended leave the title as is, but.
Yeah, I was just, the only thing I was gonna change after, but from what you're seeing right now is the parenthetical. And then I'm gonna leave everything, and then I can put in the agenda bill, something to the effect that the council is,
Public comment.
Yeah.
Public comment on these issues or something
Do
like
a
that.
public hearing only, okay, or a public comment only, no action.
I need to ask a question. And that is, I don't want to give you this question now, so you don't have to answer this now, but maybe for next Wednesday, so I'm not blindsiding you with this. You have a race equity commission, and they meet, and they bring up other issues such as sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, gender identity, religion, language, age, marital status, veteran status, mental abilities and disabilities, which all fall under common term of diversity. Are you allowed to talk about them since you're just the race equity commission? In other words, it's obvious that diversity is more inclusive. And I think what I'm hearing on the counterpoint is by including all these others, you're watering down the race portion. But my question is, can this commission meet on these other issues? And if that's the case, can they meet on any other issue too?
No, so I would say that that's where you get into the powers and duties. So with the, so if you look at the purpose statement in 101, on the outset, it's to advise the city council and mayor by applying a race equity analysis to all aspects of governance to maintain engagement with and accountability to other work being done throughout the Bremerton community in service of race equity.
Yeah, so it's just race.
It's
Okay.
And I think what Quinn was trying to say is that there's intersectionality.
exactly.
And it's people who have disabilities that is, there's also a portion of those people for which what race is, there's race is the one that, there's women of color, there's people with disabilities of color, and that if you address race, then you can, help a lot of people. But that was, I don't want to paraphrase Quinn, but that was,
You can
You said it at great
absolutely,
length.
you can absolutely talk about, right? You can absolutely talk about disability, all these other things that you mentioned in the context of the racial equity lens. Absolutely, those topics can be brought up. 100%.
They have to be though racial related. So there has to be
racial
an
equity.
intersectionality.
right, so like, it's
Well, I mean, there doesn't have to be. They can talk about whatever, but
well, the purpose of the committee is not going to be, like, for example, talk about like ADA access and, and so like if they, what would happen if they did? And I mean, it would be like, the advice that they give the council or the mayor is only going to be worth, what the people put on it. I mean, I guess if they started advising on other issues, I mean, it's just, it's against the purpose statement, but
this may not be germane, but maybe we just need to create a gender equity committee.
Do you know that the county of Kitsap has never had a commission on the status of women?
Oh.
Never. Never.
At this point, may I suggest that we leave public comment to the public and await it with open arms and do everything we can to say, come and comment to us.
Yeah.
We will bring cookies.
Yeah, there's a. Yes, and the start of this was Eric's question on the legality of what the commission can be able to address. So I want to make sure we finish that question.
I'm going to ask it next Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
No, it's a very.
I think I understand your answer, but I really think by doing that, why would I accept public comment? But I really think you want to have a broad scope scope as you can, and the DEI gives you that broader scope than the race equity. It just makes sense to me, but.
Yeah. Going back and forth, yeah, real quick, is just like,
Having fun yet?
in work we've done, for marriage equality and, lifting the military ban and things like that, like, you work with allies, you work with other groups to move your cause. And,
You don't leave them behind.
yeah.
All right, so I think let's go to, move it along here. All right, so we'll do public input only, no action anticipated next week. If that's, I'm seeing no consensus for that. Okay, good. So put that on there, leaving it as is, except for the strikeout on the parenthetical. And I just want to summarize of like, I know folks are watching, like, thank you everybody who's watching.
Yeah.
For your input. It's not easy. If this was easy, it'd be done. So just thank you for everyone for the really, just like heartfelt open comments. This requires open discussion. It requires grace. It requires a lot of talking. So just thank you to everybody. So we'll get this on for input only. And that will close up our briefings and agenda bill items. All right.
And it's only 8:34.
That's right. All right, Council, how are we feeling? Do we need a
I think
short
we're
break?
to understand 8:30 is nothing. We've had meetings
True.
till 9.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
It's okay. I would like to,
Short break?
no, I would like to move forward with my
Power through.
report.
doing
All right.
I'll make it. Can we move forward with our reports and be done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really,
All
my
right.
son is coming in on the ferry.
Perfect. All right.
There's overtime.
All right, let's move on. General Council business, item C1. Finance, Investment, and Parking Committee Chair Jennifer Chamberlain provide a summary of the meeting from March 28th.
I have no, I do have a small thing. We covered, a lot of our discussion was with Miss Monroe, so we covered all of that. And then at our next meeting, we're going to be having, kind of getting ready for our mid-year budget review. So we're going to get learning about some other things like how we're collateralized, we're going to look at our fund balance, budget calendar, look at a master spreadsheet on where we're at. And I really liked Michael's suggestion of can we do shared docs, but I don't know if that's going to be a thing we can do. That's it. Thank you.
Shared docs.
Just a shared doc to be able to see like a working document of if there's a budget. Go
The
ahead.
example actually was even for an agenda for a committee meeting.
Mhm.
Yeah.
If it's a shared document, and then there's this thing where every time, like if you send a PDF, IT will know this. If you send a PDF to everybody,
Oh, yeah.
you've just created that many more copies, and they take up space, they take up
Sorry,
energy.
Was the question technical? Can we do a shared document? Which is obviously yes, but
Can we move to
form
make
wise.
it a
Okay.
practice?
Oh, okay, sorry. It's okay. Yeah.
Why are we, this is a lot.
The answer is yes.
Okay.
We have Office 365, we have all the tools. Yeah.
Well, and it shows the edit history in the documents. It's not a whole bunch of, yeah, I like it. So anyway, thank you. I did not know that was going to be a longer report than like just on shared documents, but it was a good discussion, y'all. Okay, thank you.
All right. Any questions? Next up, Public Safety Committee Chair Denise Fry, a highlight of the meetings April 6th.
Yeah, we had Mr. Herfey from your office come in and give us an update on 5536. And I think it's passed both houses. It looks like it's going through. So there was a lot of discussion with police and fire and Judge Flood about what the impact of something like that.
Remind me which.
5536 is the
Lake Fix.
Lake Fix,
Okay.
the banned substances, and so it obviously will become more of an issue for police and fire as far as action taken and what's the impact to the court going to be and all of that. So we did talk about maybe getting some thoughts started from the department heads, from the chiefs and stuff about what the impact will be. Or, just that we need to be prepared for it. There was concern about that. And I think there's also just concern about how the bill's going to play out, and whether there's going to be funding for social services and all that kind of stuff. Am I forgetting anything, or maybe from your perspective?
No, I think, you know what? I think really we're just gonna have to hurry up and wait and see what happens with it, and trust our departments to implement it, whatever it is, and then we'll see it when it gets here.
Quick question, and this is gonna be a horrible pun. Were there
Is
any-
it a father's?
No. I was gonna ask, and I don't want to make the night too much later, but was there any fireworks? There was a discussion of it. And I asked because we got public comment last time, asking if, and we mentioned we'd keep talking about it all. Year. Yeah.
Okay, so you know what? I gotta be real honest. Now that I'm not the chair of public safety, I feel like I can say this now, but I really got shamed by many people in the administration to try to keep that as agenda items. So I let it kind of fall by the wayside because I don't feel like it's something that folks wanted to put much effort into. So that's,
okay.
I got a very shaming, another example of what Denise talked about earlier, just shaming me for wanting to keep this as I should probably stop now, but.
I support it.
Eric, yeah.
So my comment on the fireworks, you don't need to be talking about this in committees. If you really just put it to the vote of the people, let them decide.
But there were multiple issues we're talking about in terms of communication, amending our existing ordinance, amending sales. So
Want to ban it or not?
practices, communication, yeah.
And I think
Okay.
where we had set on that last year, where I was hoping to put some energy into, and kind of got a little bit of consensus, was keeping, like, at least having some kind of public outreach on good practices, good neighbor handbook, for instance, but that didn't really. Yeah.
Put another quarter.
It's tough to get the motivation going in.
I'll leave it up to you if you'd like to bring it back up.
Well, it'll come back up, so we'll address it when it comes back up. Maybe it needed to ripen just a little bit more.
Sounds good, Michael. Then I'll leave it in your hands, Chair.
I feel that the part of the issue is that we can do anything we want with the law, but the public safety folks, police and fire, they have no more bandwidth to do anything about it.
Well, they will pretty soon.
Well, yeah. So,
Okay, just want to ask the question and got public comment on it. So okay. No, sorry. That's it. Sorry to create fireworks with that. Yeah. All right. While we're having a real blast, item C3, any regional and other committee boards.
I am it.
Burn.
Firecracker
They
today.
just keep coming.
All right. I
You're
have
fired.
I have a quick one. Let me see what I wrote
You're a
down,
Catherine,
and then I'll
yeah.
ask if other folks did theirs. My goodness. Now I can't even find it. So let me see if anyone other
I got
gets a
Kids Up
transit.
Transit.
Perfect. All right.
The thing about being on the Kids Up Transit Board is, like, it's still pretty stunning, the sums of money. It's like, oh, well, by the way, they have a $43 million unrestricted reserve. That's just one of their reserves. So we're spending $11.5 million on really good stuff, like 10 electric 40-foot buses. We are spending, and they're fixing up the CAD that, like, tells you where the buses are, so you can, like, actually do it in real time. We're doing the pre-design on the Johnson Road park and ride design, which is rather pricey. One thing that came up, just spending money. It's just the sums are really enormous. Two things that came up I thought were really interesting. One was a member of the public commented that Kids Up Transit was totally directed towards commuters. And that, like, jolted me a little because of course that's true. The director noted that, like, with the pandemic, everything's with the pandemic, patterns had changed and people, like, wanted to, like, go out and shop or go out and meet or go out and have play dates. This would be a strong possibility of getting over the hump of, or whatever you call it, of, like, new hires having to just do the morning and the evening rush hours, which is what's so discouraging to those new young drivers. Apparently, I was told that this was a union thing, and I was like, no, union members would never do that. But apparently, they do. The senior members have that thing where it's like, you know, we went through this hazing, you know, you should go through it too. That was about it, and there will be no Kitsap Transit meeting later this month, so yes, all done.
Questions?
I got one real quick go to the order.
Sorry, I found my thing, which was KEDA, Kitsap Economic Development Alliance. The mayor and I are on that board, and then they had their annual meeting as well. Two takeaways: they approved a whole new 5-year plan and budget, and I think the takeaway I got out of it was really greater outreach and coordination across the county. Just kind of again on economics, and then the other one was they had a really nice like economic forecast where they had actually people I forget the university, but actual economists, and they were talking about you know unemployment trends and revenues and just the entire outlook. And I think my takeaway was for everything they bring up, and they'd be like, "Are we in a recession or not? Well, what's the definition? And they'd go, "Well, we're in weird times." And you know, somebody will say you can't have a recession when you only have like 4% unemployment. But we're low because of these metrics and all these trends are changing. And so, oh gosh, I'll see if I can find a little PowerPoint. It was really illuminating, but I think, and I bring this up because going into budget season, right, we're going to be saying, what is the projection? And I think it's pretty unknown. Like, I think if anyone says that, I can confidently say we're steady, we're just in weird times still was my takeaway. So, there was a lot of optimism and a lot of like,
Economists, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love it to talk about it.
Good data download, yeah.
So I thought one comment that was made at last week's meeting was like really accurate, which is if you are not 6 foot tall or taller, you can't be seen, like you can't see over those screens, and you are invisible.
You can't see me behind them.
You can't see, yeah.
I would have been
I'm
happy.
so
to
sorry. I
stand
thought
up.
you were talking about PETA. Okay, yeah, done with that.
Yeah, no.
General comment on
I'm so sorry.
on the setup
I don't
downstairs.
know what
Okay.
to say about economists, Joe.
Okay.
I'm so
Yeah.
You're a geologist
Yeah.
That-
Okay.
geologist, yes.
All right. So,
Just, it would be really great if there was some way, and I feel like this has to be off-putting the whole way we do it. It's like you make people come and stand there like they're supplicants, and we're up on a dais, and that's already like a lot. And then to have those screens like blocking us, it's a little too much. So I'm just saying that.
So I wonder if IT can help us, or
Yeah.
maybe we can get better chairs that actually.
You didn't get smaller monitor, because when you did that, you couldn't see.
You couldn't
where it
see.
was on the monitor.
So then maybe we need new chairs so that short people can be higher.
Chairs, not in
Front of a-
Clearly,
front of a monitor, but side.
can we just admit that it might have been designed for men? Can we just admit that?
Heavens no, can't do that. Whatever we do.
Before I have to feel guilt for being over 6 feet,
There are some 6 feet.
I want to come up with a solution. That way I don't have to
I
have that
chose none
guilt.
of this.
How about phone books?
And the solution is
Phone
you
books.
put the tablet inside the thing, so it's not.
Yeah, we tried that, but we have, there's no support on the inside of that diet.
Right.
I'm just saying,
They would have to do a whole-
move the monitors so that we can peek out around.
Move your chair, it has wheels.
I do.
It's really hard
I
to
look
move
like
those.
Instead of putting a chair in front of a monitor, you put the monitors here, you can look at.
If the chair were higher, your feet will be dangling too. Okay, I have a quick go to the order really quick.
And then I have one more after that.
Okay, regarding economics, the great give happened yesterday, yes, but they were way down from the past 2 years. And so, and I thought, and I'm like involved with a nonprofit, and I felt really bad. I was like, did I do something wrong? No, everybody. And so that might be as people are still feeling like they're in a recession, whether that's a sign of it or not. But kudos to Kitsap Community Foundation and United Way and all the 362 nonprofits, I believe, were involved in that. So, and hats off to folks that donated. And I mean, I could have saved that for a city council meeting.
Yeah, but no, good to.
You can share it again at city council.
Maybe.
It's good, Dan. I mean,
All right.
and again.
Thank you. A reminder, the Navy's coming next week.
Oh, the Navy's coming.
So,
Every nice girl.
I got a comment
You
from,
must stay
I believe it was on it.
Troops.
Mike? Oh, no. Denise? As far as anything you wanted them to address.
I sent you the last.
Yes, I got, yeah. So if you have anything else, you know, yeah.
I mean,
Who's the color guard coming?
regular council meeting, not a study session?
Yeah, they're gonna present at the regular meeting.
I know.
Mhm. I'm still,
We don't usually.
Laura and I are following back up with the color guard.
Are we doing a color guard?
He's got about 15 minutes to
Let's
address
let
after the mayor, yeah.
Let's let all the people who come to comment know that we're gonna be doing a color guard.
Yes, that was part of the idea, so.
Good.
Anyway, so anything to give feedback, let me know by like tomorrow at noon, and then I'll make sure to fully incorporate that. And the last item, the very last item is thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
This is working fantastic, I think, so.
It
Yeah.
really was nice
Mhm.
being out here.
Yeah.
Do we make him stay for every one of these study sessions? or
He
Ah.
watched closely.
You don't let him use the building
Jeff
anymore.
now.
Yeah.
He was watching
He's teaching us
Jeff.
how to fish so that we can
Yeah.
still get our own. Oh. Hand it off.
Okay, good.
Good.
Thank you. Good job.
These are great.
Perfect.
And that sounds really downstairs.
Yeah. This guy's got a PhD. I don't think you need to be here.
It's not a PhD in technology.
That's right. Zoomology. Yeah.
Zoomology?
Zoomology, yeah. All right, that, see nothing, the next city council meeting is held Wednesday, April 19th, 2023 at 5:30 PM in the first floor chambers with the remote option available. Meeting is adjourned.